the show. We're going to be here for about 2 hours. So
2 listeners already on the stereo. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Weekly Narrative. This is your Saturday night edition. As you know, you guys can find us here every Tuesday and Saturday, 7 p.m. PST. I was a minute late today, but, that's okay. We had a little technical difficulty with the stereo. So come on in, grab a drink, get comfortable. We got a good show for you today. As you can see from the title of the stream, in both stereo and YouTube, we're going to be talking about Derek Chauvin, how the trial is going. I've been actually watching a lot of that myself as I'm sitting at home working from home. I've got it on in the background. So I've got a little bit more of a deeper understanding of what's going on than the bites that you hear from CNN and whatnot. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about new hate crime hoaxes at a college called Albion College. And we're going to be talking about United Airlines going woke. We're going to be talking about the BLM founder buying an over $1 million house, which is quite fascinating. Apparently, just make money off of the backs of black people suffering. Not a bad gig. We're getting the comments already flooding into the stereo chat, and that's the whole point of titling the stereo chat Chauvin is Innocent, because we want to hear some opinions, get some discussions from people who have probably different opinions. Let's jump into it first. Before we continue, I got to start off the stream with the traditional Coca-Cola here. It's sponsored by Coca-Cola, the official soft drink of Black Supremacy.
we've been working on how we're going to get the advertisement for Coca-Cola. So there we go. There you go, Coke. We're less white now.
Yes, we are multi-streaming live on youtube.com/Weekly Narrative and stereo right now, as my lovely co-host Delaney mentioned. We got JC, Steck, Mitch, Connor, Anthony, Dave, Young, Stalking Horse in the YouTube chat. What's up, guys? I see you in there. And Athenian. Let's jump right into some of these comments that already came in. I think... Oh, David.
We're going to probably have some triggered people.
We got one. Oh, okay. Well, the nice thing about this now is that we can see text of some of the chats coming in. So I can see already the first one. I'm not going to play that. Second one, though, I got one from... This is from Sean here. Let's see what Sean has to say. Just to start off the show. Sean, this better be good. You're leading the show, buddy.
Yep.
I'm not hearing anything. Are you hearing anything?
I'm not hearing anything either.
Okay. Well, that was
all right. Nothing. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Chauvin trial. You guys been watching this? Has anybody in chat been watching this? Because if you've been watching this, you may be of the same opinion that I am, that this is really going horrifically bad for the prosecution. Prosecution being the state who's trying to convict Derek Chauvin, the guy who was on the neck of George Floyd. They've had a really rough go of it. The defense hasn't even brought up any of their own witnesses at this point. It's basically just been all of the prosecution's witnesses coming forward. So it's basically been a fairly one-sided case against Chauvin right now as far as the witnesses are concerned. However, a lot of the witnesses end up turning on the prosecution's case, against the prosecution's case for the defense. So the guy, Nelson, who is the defense attorney for Chauvin, has done an excellent job of twisting all of the defense all of the prosecution's witnesses against their own cases. And we've been talking about medical examiners lately. We've been looking at police use of force experts, not all of which, but a lot of which said things like, that are very devastating to the prosecution's case, things like Chauvin didn't use as much force as he could have. That's one of the biggest developments in the case so far.
Yikes.
Yeah, no,
he could have just done Ronnie King and just beat the crap out of him, but he didn't.
Yes, and that's not even a joke. So the police use of force experts presented a spectrum of use of force and what the person's response is, and the restraints, like the prone restraints that they used, were right in the middle of the spectrum. He could have. They actually got the prosecution's witnesses to say that it would have been reasonable and within his training and he wouldn't have broken any rules if he just got out of the car and immediately just like tased George Floyd. And that, which would have been a much higher use of force, aside from just the prone restraints, because Chauvin was responding to a code 3 call which is like the highest level call that you can respond to. The perpetrator is being resisting arrest. He's being belligerent. He's being physical with the police officers on the scene. So he's just imagine him speeding to the scene, right? He's thinking the worst case scenario in his head. He gets out. He wants to help the rookie police officers who are trying to apprehend George Floyd. He gets out, and instead of tasing him, instead of macing him, instead of hitting him with a baton, he chooses to use a lesser extent of force by going for a restraint. So that was one of the most devastating cases made by the prosecution's witnesses so far against against their case.
Yeah, I remember seeing, because I haven't really been watching it. I've just been like seeing what people have been posting on social media. And I think there was one of the witnesses that the prosecution called was like one of like the chief of police or something like that. And they asked him, is a knee on the neck, is that, or knee on any part of the body, is that a certified like restraint measure that is in training? And the guy was like, no, it wasn't. But I remember reading before the trial even happened, like that somebody posted like the guidebook that Minneapolis has, because every precinct is different. Every police, sheriff is different. They train differently. And I remember somebody saying that, yeah, this is in the handbook. This is what this was part of our training as a restraint, a use of restraint that the police could use. So it's like, who do we believe? And also too, the prosecution is going to always try to make it out to be like, this is not okay. This is not what we said is okay. But, at the end of the day, they're trained like this. So obviously something is okay with it.
Right. John Daniel in the YouTube chat says, what's good from Sacramento, Cali? This trail is reaching for the prosecution. He's going to get acquitted. Then BLM movement is going to riot across America. That's correct, John. Good assessment there. Mitch says there will be riots. There's a couple other mentions of riots. And yeah, the problem is at this point, there's going to be riots regardless because these people are way deep in their mental illness. They want to see the outcome that they want. And this is the problem, which is why we have to talk about this, because if you weren't consuming the case live, because the whole thing is live streamed, you could watch the entire thing online. And I've been watching several hours of it. And what most people's exposure to it, the extent of the average GIMP's exposure to this case is CNN with one highlight that summarizes the entire day, like 9 hours worth of testimony. They summarize it with like one thing that says, devastating case against Chauvin as use of force expert says that he used too much force. But you don't hear all the other portions of the case where the other use of force expert said that he could have used more force, or the fact that the medical experts, if they found George Floyd without any other indications of what happened, that it would have been ruled as an overdose, that he had way more than enough in his fentanyl in his blood to die just from that he had 90% blockage of arteries and all this other stuff. You don't hear about that. So they're hyping people up for the riots. They want the riots. They're inciting mass violence and destruction right now before our very eyes. And if we were to use the standard that they gave us, what the most recent standard for incitement of violence was what? January 6th, right? Because Donald Trump incited violence.
The insurrection.
The Capitol insurrection.
As they like to call it.
Their definition of incitement is essentially can be boiled down to, based off the precedent that they set, their definition of incitement is you didn't do enough to prevent the violence from happening. We're not even close to that here in this case with CNN, MSNBC covering this trial. We're way far beyond that, where they are actively encouraging people to expect a certain outcome that we all know will lead to rioting. So,
yeah, Dave in the YouTube chat says the number one state witness refused to testify because if he does, he might incriminate himself for third-degree murder. That's the first thing that went wrong.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that he's talking about George Floyd's drug dealer, and he pleaded the fifth as soon as he got on stand because he didn't want to self-incriminate and say, like, yeah, I sold him the drugs and that's what killed him. And, the drugs were laced with 3 times the lethal dose of fentanyl.
Right. So if you if you've already got somebody else that you could charge for murder of the same person that we're having
It
a
should be
trial
that
for right
guy.
now, why are we having a trial? What it just begs the question, why are we even doing this? And that's kind of what a lot of people are saying at this point in this trial. And keep in mind, we haven't even made it to the defense's witnesses yet. We haven't made it to the people who
Yeah.
are going to get on the stands and make it sound good for Chauvin. The defense has
Hmm.
been so good that he's been able to twist all the prosecution's witnesses to basically Chauvin's arguments and Chauvin's side. We got one comment that
Hmm.
came in here. Let's go ahead and hit that. The Ritz.
Police procedure is not the problem. The problem in our society is the media. The media tries to act as
Oh,
judge,
yeah.
jury, and executioner before trials even begin. They try to sway public opinion before evidence has been shown, and
Hmm.
they only stir up conflict. The media does not serve as outlets of information. They're simply arms of political motivations. They're simply political tools.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. That's what we've been saying for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months now with this whole thing.
Well,
The media just wants to gin people up and get them mad and get them angry.
well, here's the question though. I agree with pretty much everything you said, but are they doing it for political reasons because they agree with the political side, or are they simply trying to generate the most amount of division because that's where they get the clicks, which is where they get the profit, which is I mean, these are private corporations. They want profit over everything else, and the quickest and easiest way for them to get profit is to share stories like this, to encourage riots,
Hmm.
encourage destruction. So I'm still undecided of whether it's purely political or if it's just purely profit motive. But it's definitely you could make the case that it's purely political.
I think that I think it's both. They can make money off of politicizing this. And they know that. They know people are going to click on their crap and, view their stuff because, CNN, they put in their slogan, the most trusted news source. It's like, okay, well, but you guys have been caught lying several times. So are you guys really the most trusted, or are you guys just like the most available, the only available? That's my, and he's right. Like, it is politicized. They want, like, again, they want to gin you up and get you mad, so that way you go out and riot and loot and murder and give them more to watch, and because people will sit there and just consume the news and not think twice about it.
I had somebody on Twitter. I just you guys know I don't use Twitter for real. I just use it kind of a play around and troll people for the most
And
part.
mess with people.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I had somebody legitimately respond to me with the question, "Do you even watch the news?"
It's like, yeah, I do.
Oh man.
Probably more than you.
No, because to him, I mean, that's where the truth is. I mean, if it's on the news, it's real. And just we joke about people who take the news seriously like that all the time, but to see somebody actually say that to you, it's like, wow, this guy is too far gone. Mitch says he's going to go film the New York riots. Interesting. All right. Well, hopefully you're going to film it from like a drone or something like that from a mile away.
Yeah.
But that would
Yeah,
be
Mitch,
that would be sweet.
we don't want you to get beat up by these lunatics that can't even handle whatever the case may be, whether Chauvin gets, not guilty or guilty, because they're going to riot no matter what.
I'm actually timing my exit from Sacramento around this trial
Oh,
because I don't
yeah,
want to
get
be
out.
here for that. Let's see here. Lawyers call it black hat and white hat. You can now make the drug dealer the black hat, making his girlfriend a victim of not police brutality, but a bad drug dealer, says Dave. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Pivot the story a little bit. One of the other things, so we talked about the two major failings with the trial so far. The first one was the drug dealer not testifying, their star witness, right? And the second one was the use of force experts basically admitting that Chauvin could have used more force and it would have been within his rights. It would have been within training. It would have been within protocol. The third one, the third major one, because these are all the angles, right? There's the actual use of force angle, and then there's the death and the medical angle, which is what we had in the last couple of days. It was all medical experts. guys who were testifying on the autopsy, on the effects of the drugs on George Floyd, George Floyd's pre-existing medical conditions, all of these things, and basically, as I kind of alluded to already in the beginning of the stream, these medical experts admitted that, well, one of them, Tobin, the Tobin guy, he was really, you could tell he really hates Chauvin, and he really loved George Floyd, because he was just, and whatever he could say to beef up the prosecution's case, he was saying it. So he was the guy that said, he actually came out and said that that the knee, whatever Chauvin did to George Floyd would have killed a normal, healthy person who didn't have like a 90% blocked artery, it didn't have an enlarged heart, didn't have a series COVID, didn't have all these other conditions. It's like, is that really believable? Because other experts, health experts, came in and testified that not only did he have enough in his body to kill him, fentanyl, but the methamphetamine plus the fentanyl plus his heart condition would have been more than enough alone on their own to explain his death. And this is the best part. This is the coup de grace, if you will. Both, if you pay attention to the way they talk about the incident and the knee on the neck, it's actually transformed on both the prosecution side and the defense's side. The terminology has changed. The terminology has shifted to knee in the neck area. Because we've essentially
neck and or back area.
We've essentially disproven at this point the video. The video is false. The knee actually, if depending on what angle you look at it, the shin is on his back and the knee is between the shoulder blades. It's just that because Chauvin's leg is blocking the view of his left shoulder, you can't see in relation to the rest of his body really where the leg is positioned. It's not even on his neck for a lot of the video, if any of the video. So we've learned again, and we've said it before we even got to this point in the trial, that video lies. You cannot believe video anymore.
Well, yeah, also the position and where that angle of the video that was captured of Chauvin with the knee on the neck, quote unquote, the knee on the neck, like that's just one angle. I'm glad that they finally released the angle of the body cam that Chauvin was wearing to kind of show us like, hey, his knee was on his back area. Like, granted, like that's not good either, but I've been saying this from the very beginning. Even when George Floyd had the knee on the neck, knee on the back, and he was saying he couldn't breathe, if he really couldn't breathe, he wouldn't be able to say I can't breathe. Like that's just anatomical. If you've ever been in a
They got the medical
chokehold,
experts to say that too, by the way.
Yeah, if you've ever been in a chokehold, like this is from my personal experience because I have been like choked out before. If you're really,
I'm sure you have.
Like, no, not for anything kinky or anything sexy like that. It was like I got into like an actual fight with somebody and they put me in a chokehold. And when you're actually choking and you're actually being choked, you can't say anything. Like there's no wind going in, there's no air going out. So how can he, if he couldn't breathe, say I can't breathe? Like that's what like I've been trying to point out to people. He could clearly breathe because he was saying I can't breathe. If he couldn't breathe, he wouldn't be able to say anything.
So that was the argument that was kind of being propagated before the trial happened, right? That people were saying, well, he was yelling and he was saying things, so his airway was not blocked. And the medical examiners admitted that there was no evidence that there was any airway blockage. But then the pivot was what? The pivot was this MMA fighter guy who was being held back during the instance. You can see in the videos, he's actually like trying to go forward towards the cop as he's on his back, and he's being held back by somebody in the audience. He testified, and he says, "Oh no, there was a blood choke. That's what you do when you choke out the arteries and there's no blood going to the head." So they pivoted to, instead of the windpipe being blocked, it was the arteries in the neck that were being blocked. But that quickly fell apart as well, because even the prosecution's health experts came in and said that if one of your arteries is blocked, it will simply load balance to the other artery. So even if his knee was on the left, you can't choke him out. You can't blood choke somebody with blocking one side, because it's all going to go through the other side. So there was no windpipe crushing. There was no circulation crushing, and which is because they tried to make the argument that it was asphyxia by the neck, the knee on the neck. Well, asphyxia isn't necessarily, and this is what I learned actually, I didn't know this, asphyxia doesn't necessarily mean you're being choked or you're being strangled. It's simply a lack of oxygen to your head, to your brain. And that can happen through drowning, it can happen through whatever. The asphyxia in this case happened because George Floyd's arteries were so blocked already, and then constricted even further because he was on meth, and his breathing, he wasn't getting proper oxygen anyway because he was on the fentanyl, and his breathing was reduced. So, yeah, it was asphyxia. Yes, asphyxia, but not from choking. At least that's what all of the medical experts testified to.
Yeah.
Let's
Plus, and if somebody dies via choking, they would be able to see that on the autopsy. They would be able to look at the neck, and there would be like bruising, there would be markings, there would be some actual like physical evidence on his neck, on his back, if there was like a blockage of oxygen, or if that's what really caused his death. And they didn't see any of that.
Yeah, Nelson, the defense attorney, he was very good at completely getting all the experts to agree that there was no physical indications of any kind of strangulation, no bruising, no burst of blood vessels in the neck, anything like that. They went through and they pulled the skin off to look beneath, make sure there wasn't any bleeding, bruising beneath the skin, nothing. So really, the case for the knee on the neck is basically entirely destroyed at this point. Now let's see what some of these stereo users have to say about that. We got the Ritz with the follow-up.
All we have to do is revoke the citizenship of 13% of the population, and we get rid of 56% of all crime in the country.
Well, I don't think citizenship doesn't even matter anymore. They're still here, unless you're gonna put them on a boat or something. You know. There's Paul B.
Hey guys, this is Paulie B, and
What's up, Paulie?
aka Synergy Force. I'm that guy.
Oh, what's up?
I'm a paramedic, IRL, and you're right on that one thing.
Nice.
About load balancing. The other part is, as far as being choked out, hold your breath. Do you die? Being choked out, a sleeper hold, is an increased intracranial pressure. You slam both the veins shut and consciousness goes off. That's how that works physiologically.
Boom. See, we got our own witnesses, our own experts right here in the chat, because the Weekly Narrative is a congregation of a lot of very intelligent, high-functioning people. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Hopefully Nick from across the pond joins us tonight, so we can hear her British accent and get her expert
during our COVID segment.
Are you? Yeah, during our COVID segment when we get over to that.
Let's see. Yeah, people were commenting about your lights, Delaney. They take away your beautiful brownness.
I know, but I'm super pale right now because it's like it's been a rough winter. So wait until I get to go outside and enjoy the sun a little bit more. I'll get a little bit more crispy for you guys.
All right. So yeah, I would say as far as the Chauvin trial goes right now, it's really looking good for Chauvin. I don't think there's any way. There's way beyond reasonable doubt. We're way beyond the reasonable doubt here and that's really all we need to get to for him to get off. There may still be a slight chance that there's some kind of manslaughter, but I think the consensus among everyone that I've listened to, legal experts anyway, is that this case is looking horrifically bad for the prosecution. I don't know if the Nelson guy is just really good. I mean, the prosecution has like 3 lawyers, and Nelson, the defense, is doing it all by himself. And he's just been stomping all these witnesses. I can't wait to see what happens when he actually gets some defense witnesses on the stand, because if the prosecution witnesses have been going this bad, defense witnesses, it's going to be really bad. We got a comment came in from Amy. Let's see what Amy has to say here.
I just think this whole thing is crazy because the narrative that came out is widely believed by the population as a whole.
Yes.
And it will never be corrected.
Yes. They've already won. On that, Amy. Regardless of how this comes out, they've already won because they were able to burn down America with no consequences. So people are talking about how there's been celebrities that said, why are we even having a trial? We watched this all happen with our own eyes. They want to get rid of due process. People are saying, oh my God, we're witnessing the death of due process. I'm like, were you here last year? Due process has already been way gone. They already made their judgment. The public made their judgment last year when the video came out, and they enacted their punishment on America. There was never a court case for that. They already enacted
Yeah.
their own judgment on America, and they got no consequences for that. So yeah, no, due process is already gone because we have the court of public opinion, and in the court of public opinion, there's no jury. It's just the masses deciding with their hive mind and then acting out on whatever emotions come as a result.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we all saw that almost 9-minute long video of George Floyd getting, with the knee on the neck, and we were all heartbroken. Like, I saw it and I was heartbroken, but I still believe in the Constitution and believe that everybody has a right to a fair trial, even if there's the evidence is right there and the world can see it. The biggest problem I'm seeing is that, like you said, Jeremy, people are just seeing that, acting emotionally, and then not even caring that, there might be another side to it. There might be another angle that we didn't see in the original video, and people aren't willing to see that. They just want to go with the narrative that's been fed to them and not even question it and not even hear all sides of it, hear the forensics, hear the autopsy, hear anything. They just have made up their mind and want to burn, loot, and murder, and just tear our country apart over a video that's only one angle. And it's heartbreaking.
You know what the root of that problem is?
It's just heartbreaking. Yeah.
The root of that is the inability to delay gratification. They're seeing this thing, and they need to have some kind of corrective action. They need to tell an authority and have an authority take action right away. They cannot withhold the gratification of seeing a resolution to this issue that they just witnessed. But that's on the viewer's perspective, the cause. But the reality is, and this is what you have to ask yourself, everyone should be asking themselves, would we even be having a trial right now if this wasn't, number one, shared on social media and then amplified by mass media? Those are the two issues right there. And I think, one of our stereo callers already pointed out that this is really a problem with the media, but it started with social media because somebody took the video, posted it on social media, and then mass media latched onto it. They're like, oh, this is a great story. We could definitely get some play out of this. Pumped the fear, pumped the story. Oh my God, racism, police violence, all that. Pumped it, and then riots. So literally, if this never got posted to Twitter, if there was no Twitter, this trial would never be happening. Chauvin would have he'd be out on the street right now arresting somebody doing his job. That's the problem with social media, is that the hyper-feminization of society has made everyone emotional. And Twitter in a universe where we have a gender balance in our mass psychology is okay. But Twitter in a world where everyone is hyper-feminized, thereby prioritizing emotion over logic, emotion over rationality, that's a recipe for disaster, because you get stuff like this and then it escalates into get rid of due process because I just saw it with my own eyes. Why are we even having a trial?
Yeah.
So that's where this is going to go.
Yeah, let's just get rid of the entire Constitution and get rid of all of our God-given rights that our government recognizes, because in the name of just being truly free, let's just get rid of all of these things that we have. That just, it's like that's ultimately, I feel like what a lot of people want is they just don't see what the ramifications for that are. Like, we can look back in history, like the Salem witch trials, for instance. There was no due process for those women and those men that were burned and killed. That's why we have the right for due process, and we have this whole process, especially if you are innocent or you want to prove your innocence, you want to have your side seen. That's why we have this process. But like you said, with the invention of social media and the ability to interconnect so quickly, and mass media being involved in social media as well, it's just a recipe for disaster. And that's why we're in this mess that we're in with this whole trial. And honestly, I feel bad for Derek Chauvin. I really do. This poor guy, he's never going to be able to go anywhere or go back to being a police officer and protecting his community ever again, because these people are just They just want blood. They really just want him to go to prison for the rest of his life, and they want him to just like not exist ever again.
Yeah, so here's the bottom line with Chauvin, and JC Steck points out in the YouTube chat that he was 1 year from retiring. Now, this is the question you have to ask yourself, because with a murder charge, you have to prove intent. So you have to believe, which I don't think anybody actually does. You have to believe that even though Chauvin knew he was being filmed, and that he knew he would ruin his life if he killed George Floyd, he knew that he continued to do it anyway. He was like, you know what? I don't care about my life. I don't care about, I'm just going to ruin my entire life and kill this guy intentionally right now with 4 cameras watching everything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's what you have to prove in court to get the murder charge.
Right? Like, you have to prove that he actually planned it out, wanted to, had it in the back of his mind that he wanted to kill George Floyd, which that's not the case. Like, we're not mind readers.
He had a 15-year or whatever it was police career, 1 year from retirement, and then he just decides one day, you know what? I don't really care anymore. All this was for nothing. I'm just gonna ruin my entire life. I don't think that's really what happened. But like I said, I'm gonna stay tuned, and I'll be watching the trial. We'll keep you guys updated on the latest information on that, and I can't wait to see the defense witnesses, because that is where there's gonna be some real fireworks. Because if it's any indication how the prosecution's been going, the defense is gonna be incredible. And when I say incredible, I mean like just destroy the prosecution completely. So,
right, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the defense has to say, because I feel like most of the people that the prosecution called to make their point and prove the intent that George Floyd didn't mean to kill him, the defense found a great way of like not like flipping it, but kind of doing the play on words and getting kind of not manipulating, but asking those right questions to be like, hey, like, is this really what you think happened, or is this something that you've been fed?
Anthony has a really great point in chat. This is one of the things that I did want to talk about. I mean, there's so many different things that I wanted to mention about this, but I didn't write them all down. Anthony says, I blame the over-emotional crowd distracting him from effectively doing his job. Nelson got the prosecution witnesses to admit that in a case where you are dealing with a hostile crowd, you forego medical treatment. He got the experts to admit that. Destroyed the whole case right there. Destroyed. The crowd literally killed George Floyd. You could say that. It's not a stretch. It's not hyperbole. It's not really a crazy thing to say, because if the crowd, and like I said, if you weren't paying attention to the video, you weren't paying attention to the trial, you wouldn't know that there was literally an MMA fighter in the crowd who was trying to get physical with Chauvin, but he was being held back by somebody in the crowd, and yelling all these profanities and things at him. So literally, probably that guy, the MMA fighter guy, he could have gotten George Floyd killed, because in the absence of a hostile crowd, the police would have been able to provide medical treatment, thereby potentially preventing the death of George Floyd, because they could have provided CPR and things like that. So the use of force experts and all the police training people said, if there's a hostile crowd, if there's a threat to your safety, you forego medical treatment of the suspect. Mm-hmm. Are we done here? I think we're done here.
Yeah, I was going to say with the talking about George Floyd. I mean, I'm done. I'm ready to move on and maybe talk about some COVID. And
no, I meant the case. Like the case is pretty much over because of that right there.
Oh, yeah. Right.
My bad.
That's
it. No, but that's fine. Yeah, unless somebody brings out something up. Angry homos hugging official narrative, says Swampy McGee.
Swampy McGee's just been like filling the chat up with just random phrases. So yeah.
I love this one.
Random stuff.
Operation Warp Seed, where Pentagon pays death cult plead for dirty deeds upon humanity. Jesus. I don't know what you're talking about.
Dirty deeds done dirt cheap.
That is a perfect segue into our next topic. Not really, but since we were talking about the hyper-feminization of society, and that's basically why we are where we are with this trial right now, because of the hyper-feminization of society. I wanted to talk about this next subject here. So in our hyper-feminization of society segment tonight, we got a story from United Airlines, You may know United Airlines. They've been in the news recently for having public commentary about the Georgia voting laws that were recently changed. You have to ask yourself, why is a airline providing an opinion on voting laws? That's kind of weird. Has that ever happened before? I don't think it has.
No,
Not that I'm
not
aware
that
of
I
in
can
my
remember.
lifetime. Yeah, I don't think it ever has. But let me swap over to the web view here. This is a tweet from the official United Airlines in a second, once I actually get it up. They've let us know what their priorities are for the future. They have a plan
Okay.
for 2030, and that is
Not giving us like affordable prices and good service, but let's see what they have to say.
yeah, no, not making sure that the Boeing 777s don't fall out of the sky like they have been. But their priority is this. They say our flight deck should reflect the diverse group of people on board our planes every day. That's why we plan for
Goodness.
50% of the 5,000 pilots we train in the next decade to be women or people of color. Learn more
Or
and apply
both.
now. Yeah, no, women or people of color. So,
So if they get a black woman or an Asian woman, it's like, yes.
oh yeah, no, she'll probably pilot 2 planes at once. The now I talked about the death of competence, a couple streams ago, and I've kind of been just keeping track of a list of all the things that we can see evidence of the death of competence in America. And essentially what that means is kind of the death of meritocracy, where we don't care about who's the best anymore. We care about who's the correct type of person, because it's all about your skin color. It's not about your character, right? And in this particular case, with airplanes, I'm a little afraid of this, actually. This is one that actually I think makes me second guess flying on United Airlines. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this is like, are you guys going to fly United because you know that the pilot that you're going to fly with wasn't selected because she was a good pilot? She was selected because she was black, or because
And a
she's a
woman.
she. Yeah, because she has the proper body parts. Not because of anything that has to do with her competence with flying an airplane. That's a little like, Athenian says, oh yay, women drivers.
No, woman flyers.
Yeah, well, sometimes they have problems just driving a car. But was it the
Right.
737 that was crashing? Okay, maybe.
Yeah, 737.
Seven
Thank you,
something
Synergy,
seven.
thank you for correcting us. We would love it.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring this up, because we're already seeing these new models of planes literally falling out of the sky. We saw one with an engine explode right after takeoff out of, I think it was Denver a couple weeks back. One of them, an engine fell off in flight and landed in someone's front yard. And I think they had to recall these planes. They were all grounded for a period of time for inspection. But can you remember in any recent periods where we've had a problem of that big with airplanes? Like, I thought we had the process, the science of building and creating flying machines. I thought we had that down. Why is it all of a sudden not working? That's the question you should be asking yourself. And when you see stuff like this, like, oh, we're hiring people based on their color of their skin or because of their body parts, not because they're good at flying. Is that also happening further down the chain? We're hiring people to make the engines who are brown, not because they know how to make good engines, but because they're brown. Is that also happening further down the chain? I think it probably is, but it's maybe just not publicized as much.
I mean,
There's
I already
probably
don't
other
fly
factors
United.
for why that those planes are falling out of the sky, but I'm just offering potential explanations,
yeah, I mean, I agree with, we have Holly in the YouTube chat. She says, excuse me, but I believe I would want the best pilot regardless of melanin or genitals. And I agree with that. I want
Yeah.
whoever it is who's going to do the job the best. Whoever is going to get me from point A to point D, point A to point B safely.
Freudian slip.
Whoever's going to get me, Freudian slip. I want that person to get me there safely, regardless of gender. I have seen women pilots before, and it's not like I doubt them, but it's, I don't want them to get hired because of their genitals. I want them to get hired because of their merit, because they are good at what they do and they don't have crashes. They don't have, any kind of issues. And so this whole thing with United is just virtue signaling and, being like, look, we're woke. we love black people and brown people and women. We want you guys to come to us. It's like, okay, cool. I'm just going to go fly Southwest now. Thanks for letting me know where you guys stand.
We got Leah, recurring viewer in stereo, with a comment here, I think, on the plane stuff.
I mean, honestly, whatever. If you're going to train a person and they're getting trained and that's their goal, that they want to train this many people of that, like they want to hit some quota that they've decided on and train them to be pilots, great. But like, if people don't want to do that job, they don't want to do that job. So what are you going to do? Like force a bunch of like minorities to learn how to fly planes? Like they don't, what if people don't want to fly planes?
Yes.
Yep.
I just don't even see the point of trying to hit those quotas. Like, how about you just let people fly aircraft who want to be there flying aircraft? That would be my preference. Like a pilot who wanted to be a pilot is fucking flying me around. That would be cool.
Exactly. Yeah. You're so right on that, Leah. Like, dude, I want somebody who is good at their job and wants to be there, enjoys doing that job. Because I mean, flying an aircraft is not an easy thing. It's kind of scary, honestly. I wouldn't personally want to do it. It's intense. I mean, there's a lot of people who are just afraid of flying in general. So I want the person that's the best qualified and actually wants to do it and is good at their job and isn't a drunk, isn't a drug addict. You know, I don't care what their skin color is or what genitals they're carrying around in their pants. That's stupid.
This is what's funny about the communist utopia that we're all heading towards is in order to maintain that 50%, because women don't want to be pilots, they would have to force people. And that's why I was laughing about what she said, because I was just picturing in my head ripping like a nurse out of the hospital and be like, we're gonna teach you how to fly a plane because we're a little short on pilots. And she's like, I don't want to fly a plane. I just want to be a nurse, or I want to be a veterinarian. And like, nope, sorry,
right.
We need equality. So you strap on your helmet, get ready. We're gonna teach you how to be a pilot. And I pulled up some statistics here. I did a quick go. I ducked it. We're trying to kill the Googling. Trying to kill Google it. Okay, I'm not saying Google it anymore.
We're ducking.
And what percentage of FAA certified pilots are women? So how far do we have to go? What kind of gap are we looking at? If we got to get to 50%, what are we looking at? So this is pilotinstitute.com. I don't know how credible this is. This is like the first result on DuckDuckGo. But if you look here, category, these are 2018 statistics. Pilots, so commercial pilots, the percentage of commercial pilots that are women, 6%. 6.16%. So we got to make up a 43% gap. That's a lot of women that you got to make pilots that don't want to be pilots. Or I don't even know how else you would make women pilots just appear out of thin air. If only 6% of women want to be pilots, what they're implying is that there's a lot more women that want to be pilots, but they can't become pilots because of sexism, right? Because for whatever reason,
sexism.
They apply to the pilot school, and then they get a patriarchal, misogynistic applications guy replying saying, oh, "We don't want any women pilots," and that's the reality that they're trying to portray in their head of what's really going on. But again, as Leah pointed out, women just don't want to be pilots as much as guys want to do. So,
and I think honestly, when United say we want that, they're planning on making 50% of their pilots, women or people of color. So, like that of that 50%, how many percent are going to be women and how many percent are going to be people of color or both? So, 50% of 5,000. So 2,500 of their pilots are going to be women or people of color. That's a lot of freaking people to fill in those slots of diversity in the United Airlines franchise.
I'm really more concerned about equality in garbage men. I want to make sure we get 50% representation of women as garbage men. I think that's really important. And I don't know why they don't want to be garbage men. Well, we have to change the terminology, obviously. Maybe that's why, because it's called garbage man.
People.
Yes, garbage people. Sorry. We have to get more women to become garbage people because they make great money. And I don't know why women don't want to be garbage people. I don't know why women don't want to work on oil derricks. in 12-hour shifts in the middle of freezing cold in northern Idaho or northern North Dakota winters. I don't know why they don't want to do that. It's great money.
Or more women as like crab fishermen, because that's that's
Yeah.
a male dominated industry too. Like, come
Yeah,
on,
super
we need 50.
misogynistic industry. Those crab fishermen. We got comments from John Steele here.
Hey guys, just want to say I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for joining us. If you are interested, we dual stream here on stereo. We're also on youtube.com/weekly narrative. Go ahead, check us out if you want to watch us and see what we look like. We'd love to have you join the chat. We have lovely people in our chat over here.
We do have a great chat, and one of those chatters, Synergy, says that's like a car technician, only slightly more inclusive than electrical line workers and cell phone tower maintainers. It's funny because on a few streams back, we went over we did image searches to comparing Google's bias, and when you search for like car mechanic, you get like 40% women on the Google image search results, which is an absolute lie because it's really like 3%. So,
yep.
I mean, and then you wonder.
And also go ahead. Well, and also on the Google image search for women or for mechanic, and it all came up with mostly women. It was always like very attractive women that like weren't dirty, weren't like didn't have any grease under their fingernails.
Yeah.
So that that's a total lie, because most of the women mechanics aren't like beautiful like that, and don't have an ounce of dirt on their hands.
Of course, yeah. And that's why this story is so absurd, because the moral of the story here is that in order to enact their perfect world, they have to force people to do what they don't want to do. And it makes you wonder if that's maybe not why some of the statistics regarding women's happiness just continues to go down, despite the fact that they are educated more than men, they're graduating college more often than men, they make more than men money-wise out of college. In most states and most cities, the scales of inequality are really tipping in their favor these days, and their happiness continues to decline. Maybe it's because they're being forced to do things that they don't want to do, like be 35-year-old spinsters with cats because they spent their entire life chasing men and careers over starting a family, because that's what's actually fulfilling. But I'm just speculating. I'm not saying it's wrong to be a career woman. I'm just saying, let's look at what we're doing, look at what we're encouraging, and maybe make some adjustments based on the outcomes of that.
Or maybe these women are brainwashed into smashing the patriarchy and invading these male-dominated industries, and then realizing once they get into them, like, oh, this is not what I wanted. So I'm just going to be miserable, cat lady that hates life because men ruined it for me, because I was told my whole life that in order to smash the patriarchy, I need to enter these spaces.
Yep.
Or, just become a sex worker. Either one.
You sell pictures of yourself online to men. Yes, that's definitely smashing the patriarchy for sure. Mm-hmm. You got a comment from Isaac.
Yeah, there has to be something wrong in your head to believe that Kavanaugh is innocent. The belief that there isn't a issue between black communities and the disproportionate amount of violence that they face in the faces of cops. It's just like an Econ 101 fact. Like, even Republican economics agree with this. Like, you really don't have an argument in the face of the disparities in data, and we can list off the data. Like, just give me one response back, and I'll go ahead and respond back with all of the data that I can give in one minute breath. Again, you guys are way off the point, way off the mark with all of this. I mean, in no way is what you're saying actually proportionate to what the data represents for what the normal person in any institution would agree is the consensus, right? The consensus is that blacks are disproportionately violated by a cop.
I think Isaac misheard the subject of a conversation here. The subject of the conversation is the trial of Derek Chauvin, not the statistics surrounding police on black violence. That would be a separate discussion I would like to have. However, the topic of tonight's discussion is the innocence of Derek Chauvin. The innocence of Derek Chauvin is in no way tied to the statistics of police on black violence. The innocence of Derek Chauvin is tied directly to the fact that the prosecution will not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Chauvin intended to kill George Floyd. Very simple. So if you have an argument for why any of the things that we listed about how the prosecution's very weak case so far is incorrect, please let us know. But at this point, just to summarize, maybe you weren't here for the beginning of the stream, but we talked about how medical experts already testified that if they found George Floyd with no other indications of violence or death, that he would be labeled as overdose because of the amount of drugs in his system. He had underlying conditions that would have contributed to his death. The knee was not on his neck. The knee was on his back and in his neck area. And Chauvin did not use as much force as he could have. Use of force experts already testified that he could have literally come out and tasered George Floyd, and that would have been within his proper training and right to do so. So we know that Chauvin used less force than he could have. We know that the knee was not on the neck. We know that there is no such thing as a blood choke, that he did not have his blood circulation cut off from the knee on the neck. We know that there was no obstruction in the airway. If you have any arguments against any of that, I mean, that's just what we've learned from the prosecution's witnesses so far. So please let me know if I missed anything.
Oh, I'm pretty sure this is the guy that we had a couple weeks ago that just kept on replying back to us about the disproportionality of police with blacks encounters and stuff like that. And it's like, well, you know,
Just every time he comes into the stream, no matter what topic we're talking about, he's like, "You guys are wrong because statistics on black police violence is way out of proportion."
it's like, well, yeah, because black people are committing a disproportionate amount of crime. So guess what? If they would cut off on the crime, there would be a lot less encounters with the police.
It's true, but let's not obfuscate the subject at hand, which is very specific.
Right.
The innocence
Yeah,
or
that's true,
guilt
yeah.
of Chauvin killing George Floyd with murder. So, we got our UK correspondent here. Let's go to our UK correspondent, Moneypenny.
Garbage men, garbage people. Oh, we're going up the woke track. So the woke report, live from the United Kingdom.
Yes, we
The United Kingdom has a small island off the southern coast called the Isle of Wight.
Oh,
It will shortly
no.
be renamed the Isle of No Colour. And further up England, to the west coast, is the Isle of Man, which clearly will have to be
of
renamed
course.
the Isle of People. Seriously, though, we had to change postmen and postman to posties. Posties. So maybe we can have garbagees or refusees. Oh, gosh.
That's
Hey, guys. Just me.
Thank
What's
you.
up, Moneypenny? We were just wondering if you were going to join. We love it. Thank you for that woke update from the UK, because generally whatever happens in the UK transfers over to us. So, you know, hopefully we'll see some of that wokeness seep into our culture.
Yeah, I think I know chat was saying that the previous caller did say Kavanaugh, but I'm assuming he meant Chauvin because our stereo stream is titled "Chauvin was innocent." So it'd be very strange if he was actually talking about Kavanaugh, because that is nowhere near anything that we're talking about.
Right.
All right, we got. I think this is Osis.
This isn't as true anymore as it used to be. Back in the 80s, there were 2/3 of commercial pilots, were ex-military. Now it's only 1/3. As we know, the military is only 14% women. So you have a huge disparity to make up there alone. This is all just social engineering.
Yes, interesting. I didn't know those statistics. Thank you, Osis, for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, exactly. If women are really going to try to invade these spaces and become half of these male-dominated industries, we got a long way to go, ladies. We got a long way to go. Step up our game.
There's a good comment in the YouTube. I want to bounce back just real quick on the trial. Andy Ruski says, one thing we don't know is that it was racially motivated, and that is one thing that we cannot lose sight of, because the whole entire argument being made here is that it's racist, right? The death was racist. The fact that he could get away with killing George Floyd was racist, and that Chauvin himself was indeed a racist. That's not even possible to prove, short of finding some kind of diary by Chauvin or that says that he hates blacks. So that's a great point. Thank you, Andy Ruski, for pointing that out, because that really is the heart of the issue, and that's what this whole thing is being sold as, a racist incident. But again, there's no way you can prove that. So we got 2 follow-ups from the Ritz here.
The disparity in incarceration rates between black, white, and Asian and Latino communities mirrors the IQ disparity. There is a connection between aggressive behavior, criminal behavior, and IQ level. The higher your IQ level, the average IQ, the higher the average IQ, the lower the lower chance that group has at having negative interactions with police. Now, the IQ scale is not based on race; it's simply just based on IQ levels. However, IQ does differ based on racial lines. The average white IQ is around 100 to 103. The average black IQ is around 80 to 75. And that explains why blacks encounter police in negative situations.
I didn't mean to laugh during that, but I can't even. It was involuntary, because anytime we talk about IQ with regard to race, people just lose their minds. It's like you can't even do that anymore, and you have to wonder why they don't want to talk about that so much. If there wasn't anything there, why wouldn't you just let us talk about it? But again, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about whether those IQ measurements are true, false. People will try to discredit those, but in general, it does appear that the crime does correlate with IQ. Thank you, Dave, for the $5 super chat. He says, "Night all, pleasant dreams and better tomorrows." Thank you, sir. Have a great night and a great rest of your weekend. Appreciate that.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Love you.
Holly says, the catch-22 is you cannot prove you are not racist. And again, that's kind of the court of public opinion thing, right? Once they have judged you to be racist, there's no trial for you to become innocent. You just are racist for the rest of your life, regardless of anything that may come to light as far as intent or anything like that. So, yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. And the only way out of that, honestly, really, is to completely devalue the word racist by just admitting, just say, oh yeah, no, I'm totally super racist. We have to portray the fact that we don't care about being called racist anymore. And it's not going to work in like Chauvin's case. Obviously, he can't just come out and be like, oh yeah, I'm super totally racist, guys. But in stupid, smaller interactions, which is where all the cultural shifts always start anyway, the smaller interactions with people. Like if somebody on the stereo stream called me a racist, my response would be, oh, yeah, I'm totally super racist. Oh, it's the same response that I have on my Twitter page. Anytime someone calls me a racist on there, which they often do, I just respond, yeah, totally, super duper racist, mega awesome racist, because it shows them that I don't care. I don't care about being called racist, because that word is meaningless.
Same thing for me, Jeremy. If people call me racist, I'm like, yep. I mean, how else am I going to say no? Like I can say no, but you're not going to believe me. So I might as well just be like, yep. And
when you make a word completely meaningless and it applies to everyone, then okay, I'm following the rules that you set forth. You said that this word means nothing anymore, so I'm going to agree with you. Agree and amplify. Malicious compliance with your word. That's how we kill that slowly over time. We just completely remove that word. All value from that word. So we got stereo comments piling up. We got Paul B here.
One of my favorite comments from a quote from fiction is, because it's applicable to so many things, misery shared isn't misery divided, but some company is better than nothing. And that perfectly represents lamenting the modern state of wokeism destroying the West.
Hell yeah.
I didn't have to hear that quote again. I didn't hear the whole thing, but I think he's trying to say, I'm actually not even sure what he's trying to say with that.
I think he's trying to say that, like, he said misery share. I think like he's trying to say that these people they instead of like wanting to be alone and be by themselves, they'd rather just like be miserable with everybody else that's miserable too. If we're incorrect in that, or if I'm incorrect, then like let us know. But I kind of agree. Like these people are a lot, not these people, but they're so miserable and they're so like
Yeah.
used to being miserable
Okay, yeah.
that it's
They
they'd
need
rather
more
just like
people to be miserable with, which is how that whole ideology propagates. It's all based off of hatred. It's all based off of low self-esteem. It's all based off of misery and finding things to be upset about. Yeah, no, I think that if that's what he was trying to say, then yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
yeah.
Let's see here. John Steele.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. He commented in YouTube because Holly in YouTube chat says misery loves company, and then he agreed with Holly. Yeah, in a more poetic way. Yeah, it's the same
That's right.
idea
That was
as misery
Paul B.
loves company.
Yes, thank you. That's right. Yep. Thanks again. All right, John Steele.
I've had a good few drinks, so excuse me if I'm not so sharp right now, but I'm just tired of pretending that the differences in the amount of police brutality that different communities face is just just based on racial grounds.
Yeah, I'm with you.
These different groups don't act the same. The amount of crime is far different. Policing these different communities is completely different. Can we put some sort of the blame on the community itself for glorifying crime in their dominant culture, please?
I mean, I would love to, but I get accused of being racist for even fathoming or even mentioning the fact that we need to start putting the blame on to the people committing the crimes and not on the police officers for responding to the crime that's occurring. That's why that guy that tried to bring up the police on Black encounters and that statistic behind it, it's like, well, if they would stop committing so much crime, the police wouldn't have anything to respond to. There's a thought.
This is the irony of the entire procedure. The Isaac guy who came in hot about Chauvin being innocent and black, statistics with police violence and things like that, is guys like Isaac. They need black people to be completely powerless for their narrative to be true, because their narrative is dependent on black people having no agency, black people not being able to choose how they interact with police, not being able to choose to comply with police, and they just all their white supremacy compels them through magical spells and voodoo to resist police at higher rates. It controls them to commit more crimes than other races. There's no point in any of that calculation where there's a black person making a choice. They're all being controlled by some externality. And by saying that, and by trying to make that a true thing, you are removing all of the power from black people, because you're saying they don't have the ability to make their own decisions. Is that what you're trying to say? You're saying that because they commit more crime, it's because of white supremacy, it's because of other externalities. So yeah, I definitely agree with John.
I mean, he even went as far as to say that they have a lower IQ, and that's because that's why they commit more crime. Okay, well, I'm sorry, like there are a lot of like
that was somebody
certifiable
else.
That was?
Yeah, no, that was he definitely didn't make that argument.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was somebody else, because the guy that said that had a very similar voice, but whoever that guy was went as far as to say they have a lower IQ, and it's like, I'm sorry, but you don't see like retards, like certifiable retards out there committing crimes. Like it's not about.
So you're arguing against the IQ argument. Is that what you're doing?
A little bit. Like even stupid people can be taught to not. Stupid people
still have a choice. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, stupid people still have a choice and still can be taught, like, hey, you don't need to be gang banging, you don't need to be selling drugs in order to make money. You can still be stupid and have a low IQ and be able to get a job and take care of your family normally.
Okay, all right, I could see that argument. Let's see, we got some more stereo comments here. The Ritz has got another one here.
I don't need to prove that I am not racist. I am a racist.
we are all racist. That's how we that's how we deal with that. We're all racist. Yep. Who cares? Money penny.
So here's the thing on IQ.
Yes.
Embarrassing as it is, I'm now old enough to admit both my natural birth parents were members of Mensa. Mensa being the
Nice.
international organization for those with very high, abnormally high IQs. In order to get into Mensa, normally you have to be in the top 2% of your IQ based on your age, demographics, all that sort of thing. So, sadly, my IQ was commensurate with that, and I qualified for Mensa. It's a disablement. I was bullied, hurt, ridiculed, and treated really, really badly as a child because of my IQ. I think it's a negative thing, not a positive.
Actually, I think I would agree with her. There's a sweet spot where you're like upper above average, but if you get too far above average, it is a detriment. It's more like a curse, I would say.
I mean, I know people that are like super, 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 super smart, like high IQ, but they are total idiots when it comes to just common sense, regular, just normal thinking and normal thought process. And then I know people who have really low IQ, but have the capability to learn and adapt and work hard and be successful. So it's not, to me, IQ shouldn't be a factor in a lot of things, because like I said, dumb people can be super smart, and super smart people can be super dumb.
Ben Savage has a great point in YouTube chat here. He says, evolutionary biology exists. Boom. I would put a boom on that, because that's something that most people, when we're talking about IQ or, correlations with race or certain ethnic groups, things like that, they want to erase all that. When they say genders or social constructs, stuff like that, they're basically erasing evolutionary biology. And Ben continues to say, we can't expect to put a suit on a tribesman from Africa and expect equality. Oh, man.
I mean, in a lot of people's eyes, you can do that, Ben. So, you need to get with the times.
All right, we got, let's see. Okay, I'm going to do John Steele here.
Hey, if you talk to black activists or mothers, fathers, they want peace. They don't want, the crime and the violence to be the way it is. And you and me are not going to change the culture in these communities. You may say it's due to historical factors or whatever. Fact is, there's no DARE program that's going to go into these schools and change it. It is going to have to come from within the community. If this is what they want, if they want this safe utopia, Wakanda, that's on them. It's their own actions that create these conditions. And the only thing that can save them is themselves.
Yes, agree. And that's why it's so important to not take the power away from them by guys like Isaac. They want to brainwash black people into saying, you don't have the ability to fix your own problems. Guys like me, I say, no, you have the power. You have all the power you need to change the outcomes of your life and your communities and your families. And that's what everyone on the left wants to do. They want to make sure that that mentally they're brainwashed into thinking that they don't have the power. So, yes, I agree 100% with that. We need to make sure they know they have the power to change their own outcomes. And it's not due to some kind of externalities like some ethereal, white people, as they like to say.
Why people?
White people.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this several times on stereo and on YouTube. There's no group of Klansmen that are orchestrating and forcing these black people to commit crime at a higher rate. It's just not happening. They're doing it all on their own through, I think, from words of, black people that we've talked to on stereo, the lack of culture, the lack of a strong, solid culture that has been festering in the black community for generations now. And I totally believe that they have the power to change their communities for the good and, take back their culture and, empower themselves. But again, it's people on the left and these brainwashed, quote unquote liberals that are spoon feeding them the victimhood syrup, and they're drinking it down and sucking it down like Kool-Aid.
Well, it feels good. It feels good to see problems in your life and see problems in your communities and your families, and then just be able to blame that on externalities. So they're stuck in kind of this emotional, again, inability to delay gratification, inability to say, I need to sacrifice for a little bit to make my life better. It's a lot easier to just blame externalities, and they're stuck in that trap. And the left, the Democrats in America, know that that is where they're at, and that they can continue to keep these people chained, essentially mentally chained, literally in mental slavery, by just every so often couple years saying, hey, oh yeah, white people, slavery, 1619 project, oppression, blah blah blah. They just throw us some kind of buzzword, keyword, and then they'll instantly comply with any kind of imposed controls over their life. So we got Leah.
I don't know if you guys had seen this or not, but Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter actually have a really interesting conversation about agency with things like this in crime in the Black community. They differ on it, but I'm in the boat of you can't take away a person's agency, and I feel like that's a lot of what the far left tries to do, and it's just incredibly condescending, honestly.
It is. That's the whole thing about it. There's
Absolutely.
nothing more racist than implying that the blacks can't change their own outcomes. And it goes directly in line with this voter ID stuff we've been seeing. Did you see the video of I don't know who it was. I think it was somebody in chat will tell me, but he went around and interviewed white college kids, and he said, hey, what do you think about voter ID laws? And he asked all these white college kids, and all the white college kids said, oh, I think they're like super totally racist and all that. And that's what they all said. That some guys literally said, oh, I think blacks have some problems figuring out how to get the IDs and stuff like that. I was like, Jesus Christ, these guys literally think that blacks are retarded. And then they go to black community, they go to like the Bronx or something like that, and he just asks a bunch of black people like, hey man, do you have photo ID? Everyone he asks is like, oh yeah, I got an ID. And like, do you know how to find the DMV? And then they're all like, oh yeah, it's right over on 23rd. It's like they know how to get IDs. They know all this stuff. They have intelligence. They have agency. But white leftists, white liberals want to remove all that power. They think they're stupid. They think they're retarded. And that's how they keep them as kind of like the tool in their oppression war. Because in order to keep parroting them out as, oh, look at what's happening to this community, they have to be disempowered. They're getting disempowered by their own team, not by anybody over here. We know that they can find IDs and get voter ID. That's why this whole voter ID stuff is so stupid, because it's all predicated off of the idea that black people don't know or can't get photo IDs. It's racist to require ID because blacks are too stupid to find IDs. That's basically what they're saying.
Yeah, it's incredibly insulting when they insinuate that black people aren't smart enough or capable enough to go to the DMV, or they don't have their birth certificate and social security number. They don't have their crap together to be able to go to the DMV and get an ID. Like, what kind of, like, it's so insulting to a person's intelligence that they're not smart enough and capable enough to go get an ID of some kind, so that way they can do things in life. So we've talked about it before. You can't freaking go buy cigarettes. You can't buy alcohol. Like, for me, because I look super young, I wouldn't be able to go to a rated R movie without being carded. So the fact that the far left wants to convince the black community that they're not smart enough, capable enough, resourceful enough to get an ID and, do what's expected of every single adult in this country is just incredibly insulting. Like, if I was a black person, I would be so insulted by this.
And we weren't talking about ID tonight as one of the topics, but the ID thing is just supporting evidence for the same exact thing that we're talking about with the black crime, the black statistics with police violence. It's all based off of the same fundamental process, the same fundamental methodology, which is removing power, removing agency from black people. Everything the left does is based on removing power and agency from black people. All of their narratives wouldn't exist without that. We got We got a comment from Paul.
What is up, you guys? Weekly Narrative and Young D. See, I was never really good at, pronouncing words, in English and all of that. I could barely say my own name. So I'm just going to call you Young D. Anyway, so I just wanted to say hey on these stereo streets. Love you both. Support you both. Hope you guys are doing good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's Young Degenerate Lesbian. I wanted to, put it all out on stereo, but it's like 15 character maximum, so I had to shorten it to Young Degen Lesbo.
Paul B with another reply.
Speaking about IQ, you really have to think about Michael Malice. He has this term, midwit. It's like someone who's 5'10". Someone who's 5'10" could be the tallest person in the room sometimes, but they would never be called unusually tall. And that's what some of these 102, 110 maybe IQ people are. They're midwits. And society generally equates IQ or intelligence with worth, and that's just, it's true, but it's terrible, and I hate that.
And you know what's so fascinating about the midwit phenomenon? I'm very familiar with that. Thank you for the recommendation, by the way. I do definitely recommend people check out Michael Malice. He's a self-proclaimed anarchist, but he's a really good troll, and I think that's his most redeeming quality. If you don't go to him to learn about anarchy, go to him to learn about how to troll and how to respond to people in the proper manner. But the midwit thing, I think leftists have been kind of hacking the system right now, because you're right, society does arrange itself around the hierarchy of intelligence. What the left has done to substitute for intelligence is this system of using language, using big words, using things, and this is why everyone on the left sounds exactly the same. They all use the exact same words, same terminologies, same phrases, everything. Anytime you hear somebody say the word imperialism, colonialism, oppression, things like that, it's always somebody on the left, because this is what they've done to make up for the fact that they are stupid. They're actually low intelligence, but they use these words that make them sound intelligent to kind of skirt by, and that's why you can't actually have conversations with them, because if they were intelligent, you would be able to have conversations with them. They would be able to articulate their ideas without using those cookie cutter words, but we all know they're incapable of that. You guys have seen hopefully you've seen my protest videos where I go out to these protests and I talk to them. They all sound exactly the same. They're not capable of having a conversation with normal words. They're all using scripts. It's all based off of scripts that use these big words that try to make them sound intelligent, because they're trying to get around the fact that society values intelligence by using these big words.
Oh, YouTube chat is so funny.
Ben Savage says, you just need to view blacks as literal gods who cannot ever be questioned in any context. Yes, that's how they would have us.
That's what I've been told.
Yep,
they're always right. They're the most beautiful. They're the most cultured. They just are the best at every single thing. And if you doubt them or even question them, you're a racist.
Got a insightful comment here from Swampy McGee. He says, Dr. Pepper people in it with the mustard people.
Swampy McGee's kind of been our troll on the YouTube chat tonight. I don't know if he loves us or hates us. I can't tell.
Hey, he's just doing his thing over there. We got our resident trolls here.
Right, just being a swampy person, I guess.
I love it. The Ritz with another follow-up here.
Weekly Narrative, man. The Democratic Party, the Social Democrats, is the POC party, or the non-white party. They don't care. Yep. They don't care about, and they've shown that they don't care about being morally correct, being unbiased, or being the standard for virtue. All they care about is winning.
Yes.
They've identified white people as the enemy, and they are trying to do everything they can to undermine white people. And they're already doing it with the demographics, with mass immigration, not just in America, but in places like the UK and in Germany and France. This is a war.
That was the Ritz. Somebody was in the YouTube chat was asking who is talking. That's his name is the Ritz in stereo. That's all I know about him. Otherwise, he's an enigma. But I agree with you 100% on that. And I I have to acknowledge that they are successful in their tactics. They are very successful with their tactics, and that is completely forsaking any kind of morality or ethics, just completely throwing black people in the trash to get their own power, throwing minorities in the trash, glorifying degeneracy and all these kinds of things to get power.
Yeah.
Yeah, focusing on emotionality. You can't deny its effectiveness. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, if they actually knew the history of the Democratic Party and what the Democrats really stood for, back in the day, people of color definitely wouldn't vote for them anymore. But because the far left has infiltrated the educational institutions and changed history and changed the American history, we are now in the problem. We are now in the problem that we are, and also too, they're the ones that got the first black president. So in a lot of people's minds are like, they're not racist because otherwise they wouldn't have elected a black president. So pretty sure all of America voted for Obama just because he was black, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, and we're going to move on to the COVID segment. This was the hyper-feminization of society segment, but we got somehow derailed back onto the racism stuff, which is totally fine. I like it. Wherever the conversation goes, I'm down with it. But the bottom line is, we've already described all the ways that the left is incredibly racist. So we all know their tactics are to call other people what they are doing themselves, so that you don't expect them to be the ones perpetrating what they've been telling everybody else that they've been doing the entire time. That's the whole strategy. You call other people racist, you're actually the racist. You call other people white supremacist, you're actually white supremacist. I mean, if you think black people are too stupid to know how to find IDs, you think black people are too stupid to have agency in their own decisions and how to interact with police and commit crimes, that's pretty white supremacist inherently. But that's we got a comment from Osis and then our UK correspondent, and then I think we're going to jump to our next topic here.
Michael Eric Dyson, he's the personification of what you're talking about.
Yes.
Throws out a bunch of flowery words without ever saying anything.
Yes.
And he's trying to find a way to call you racist, basically. Total piece of shit.
Good call out. Yeah, that guy is the epitome of that strategy of a low IQ guy, a midwit who uses big words to try and make himself sound intellectually superior.
Always.
So, interestingly enough, and sadly, I studied Marxism, Stalinism, and left party politics as part of my university degree. Can't remember half of it, so I've just reviewed it. So, just to report on IQ, Stalin had a statistically significantly, by a long way, higher IQ than Hitler. Stalin, Trotsky, Lenin were also far more educated in terms of the real educative processes. Stalin became a meteorologist. Hitler was expelled from his first school as a young boy for breaking rules. And whilst he continued education because of his privileged status and his parents' contacts, he effectively did not become.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that as far as Stalin and Lenin's IQ versus Hitler.
I'm sorry that you had to study leftism in school. That's sounds like a really big waste of money. But you're obviously pretty successful now.
Since we're on the topic of racism, I'm not going to jar the topics too much here. I was going to go into the COVID segment, but I do have a segment labeled More Racism, so I think we'll go to that one here.
More racism.
We got.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is just going to lend more evidence to the fact that racism is in high demand, but very low supply in America. And this is a story here from the Post Millennial, titled "Hate Hoax, Black Student Responsible for Racist Graffiti at American College." So actually what I wanted to do with this is I wanted to describe the incident first, and then have chat give me a percentage likelihood that this was a real incident. But, I think we can save some time, and since we all know that all these racism hoaxes, all these racist incidents, like where somebody spray paints a swastika, somebody spray paints, kill all the N-words, which is what happened here, it's never actually real. If anybody can give me a real one from the last year, I would love to see it. But I would definitely guarantee that there's been a lot more fake ones than real ones. This is from Albion College, which I believe is in Michigan. The graffiti was found at Albion College, which included messages such as "White Lives Matter" and "White Power." Turned out, shockingly, to have been allegedly created by a 21-year-old black male. Is anybody surprised? Put a 1 in the chat if you're shocked. Put a 2 in the chat if this is just another Saturday. Officials have declared that the racist graffiti found at Albion College was done by a black student. On April 5th, Albion College student tweeted, again, what's the catalyst for this story? Going nationwide, getting attention, getting spread? Social media. Twitter. On April 5th, Albion College students tweeted that, quote, there have been more than 12 racist incidents within the past week at the educational institution. And you can see one of those posts here. Of course, it's a female saying, this is what's been happening at Albion College. There's been more than 12 racist incidents within the past week. Somebody has to put an end to this. Albion College put security cameras in the hallways. Whatever is going to bring punishment to this blatant racism. So
until they get camera footage of a black man doing it, then it's not racism.
Get rid of the cameras quick. Get rid of the cameras.
Yeah, get rid of the cameras quick. We don't want to prove that it's not racism.
No, this is a beautiful analogy for what is happening in America on a big scale, what's happening in the West on a big scale, and what's really happening in the world, because hyper-feminization of society is occurring worldwide right now. So this isn't just about racism. This is also about the hyper-feminization of society, because look at the response. This is a feminine response to an incident like this. Someone has to put an end to this. Put security cameras in the hallways, whatever is going to bring punishment to this blatant racism. Whatever is going to bring punishment. That's the feminine mindset. Something bad happened. I need to find the closest authority figure and tell them for a resolution to this conflict. Again, I keep telling you guys that nothing in society is ever more complex, psychologically speaking, than a recess playground at grade school. This is the exact same thing. A girl, something bad happens in this on the monkey bars. The girls go to the playground monitor, the homeless guy who watches the kids at recess, right? And he slapped me, or she said a mean word. The guys never do that. The guys just hash it out. They beat the crap out of each other, and then they get on with their lives. The woman, the feminine response is to say things like, somebody has to put an end to this. Put security cameras in the hallways. Whatever it's going to take. That's exactly what's happening with, I don't know, maybe COVID. That's the response that we're doing with COVID right now. We need to lock everything down. Put a mask on everywhere you go. Anything to bring a punishment to this blatant racism or this blatant pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Exact same response. Just a different
circumstance. And I mean, I'm looking at the article now, and I'm like, they're freaking boycotting class for the injustice that they went as far as to boycott class for something that clearly wasn't a racist incident. That's amazing. So brave.
You ruined the suspense here, but it gets way better.
Oh, my bad. My bad, Jeremy.
It's fine. It's fine. I was going off on a little bit of a tangent there anyway. Thank you for reeling me back in. Continuing on from the article, the person is also said to have written such messages as 666 on top of a Star of David.
Wow.
Alongside the phrase, let's kill all N-words. The Albion police brought said male into questioning, where he admitted to doing most of the graffiti. The student was released after questioning. It's unclear whether any charges will be brought against the student. Images of the racist graffiti quickly went viral across social media platforms. Can we all identify the problem here, people? Social media. One local outlet posted a story with accompanying pictures, said that they censored due to it being so offensive. And then, as Delaney implies, they went on a campus boycott for a confirmed hoax. This is the level of mental illness that colleges are at, people. I'm playing a video here, so if you're on the stream, you can see a very long march of people who are at college paying money to be here, but they're not in class. Instead, they're marching around because of more racism, because these incidents really, the only way that we're going to get this one white supremacist on campus to stop doing these things is by making sure that all 2,000 of us, which is what it looks like there is, march around and walk around and don't go to class for a day. That's really going to solve the problem.
Yeah, the one black white supremacist out there that did all of this.
Again, the demand for racism far exceeds the supply. So, we need to have black people ginning up these fake stories in order to propagate the narrative. The narrative is surviving. Who was it? Was it Thomas Sowell who said that racism is on life support, but it's being kept alive by liberals who need the narrative to survive, or something. Liberals who want to control black people. So I butchered the quote. Sorry, Thomas. I apologize. Forgive me.
Yeah.
But you guys know what I'm saying.
How dare you?
We will change and heal together as a community, they said, because we are committed to doing the work. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it saddens me that these kids went on a boycotting spree for their college. It's like, y'all are paying all this money to go to school, and you guys are feeding into this hoax and like missing out on your education, which I feel like you guys greatly need at this point, because if you fall for this hoax, you definitely need some education.
That's the thing. I don't think education will help them.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
An education will not raise your IQ, which is really what's the problem here. These people are incredibly low IQ. Not only that, again, they're low IQ on top of being hyper-feminized. So when I say hyper-feminized, I'm not just talking about the women. There's a lot of guys here who have all been mentally castrated into believing, acting. I mean, I got a picture up on the stream right now, and I'm not doing any personal attacks. We're just doing a physiognomy check on this guy, okay? Can I get a physiognomy check on this guy that's in the picture with the microphone? I mean, he looks exactly like, who's that movie with the awkward Napoleon Dynamite? This is Napoleon Dynamite right there. He looks exactly like Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, kind of.
With a mask on, of course, obviously. Even though he's outside, he's wearing a mask. But, I mean, these are the mutants, people. This is what I say, what I mean when I say mutants. It's these people who not only have maladaptive ideological beliefs, maladaptive psychological patterns, but they're maladapted physically as well. Again, I have to keep repeating this, but you got to remember that the brain itself is 84% of the genome. So when you have a person who looks ill, looks deformed, looks, not normal, which is what a lot of these guys look like, that also manifests in the mind in mental illnesses, hyperfemininity, things like that.
That guy does look like Napoleon Dynamite.
But that's, he thinks that he's going to find a girlfriend there, but if he goes out and says, racism is bad, he's going to find...
He's he's wearing sweats to school, too. Like, dude, you're not going to find a girl wearing sweats to school. Come on, man. Like, this is... That's pathetic.
Runaway Susie says, based! You know it. More based than you know. Stay tuned for more based news. This is the Weekly Narrative, your local based live stream. Let's see.
Super based.
We got a comment that came in stereo. Let's go to that. It's the Ritz.
Given that the left is very effective with their rhetoric, despite being factually incorrect, it doesn't pose a very good picture for white people in the future, right? Many countries that are currently white majority countries are having children who will be born as a racial minority in these countries. And this rhetoric is not going to go away. This rhetoric is going to be more powerful, and they will be able to subjugate and oppress white people in the near future. That is why I am a legit racist. I don't say that to deflect their attacks.
Okay.
I embrace it.
He's dead on.
We need some white supremacy in white majority countries.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I can't endorse that, but I will say I heard something the other day that it did make sense, and I don't know who it was, but I heard it I was probably in the midst of a alt-right extremist rabbit hole on YouTube, of course, which is where somebody like me would be, jokingly. They said that WASPs, or white Anglo-Saxon people, don't have a home, and that's just their natural state. They don't have an actual physical geographical home. Like, they're always going to be kind of a homeless, moving, dynamic people. I don't know, maybe that's kind of what this guy's trying to say, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. If this guy's actually super white supremacist, and I'm going to try to not agree with what he's saying. So, I mean, you can see what he's saying exactly with this story, though. These people are coming out against the fake, evil white man. There was no white man who did anything wrong here, but they're coming out against the white man. They just need a reason to justify hating white people, which is what these events are. There is no racist, but they need a reason to hate white people, so they spray paint, they draw with a Sharpie on the wall, kill all N-words, or 666 with a David star. I don't know what that one is. This guy just clearly, he's a rookie at, his racially insensitive graffiti, but the point is, they need a reason to hate black people, and in order to justify, hate white people, and to justify additional hatred of white people, they have to create their own hoaxes. So.
Yeah, and I was looking at the pictures of the racist, rhetoric written on the walls, and he said, like, die N-words, please. So I was like, oh, at least he's saying please.
Please.
At least he's being polite about it.
That's exactly what a white supremacist would say.
Yeah, it's exactly what a white supremacist would say. He would say please. Exactly.
Jesus, that's just insane. Should fake hate crimes be labeled hate crimes? Phil C., great question in chat. And we've talked about this before. I would say, I said yes. The same way that a fake rape claim should be classified and tried as a rape, these things should be crimes. But we've seen the trend. We know what the trend is. We know that's not going to happen. We've seen things like I covered a murder, a racist black on white hate crime that nobody else covered on the planet. I covered it in Berkeley. A black guy shot a white guy and said, like, F white people and all this other racist stuff against white people, not tried as a hate crime. We've seen multiple other black on white hate crimes that have happened recently that don't get tried as hate crimes. We've seen black on Asian crimes skyrocketing lately, and none of those were tried as hate crimes. So for some reason, we don't want, anytime the recipient of the hate crime isn't black, we don't want to try as a hate crime. So you gotta wonder, I mean, that in a white supremacist system, it would kind of make sense that we would only do hate crimes in those cases. But for some reason, in our white supremacist justice system, we only try hate crimes against white people because we're super white supremacist.
Right. God.
Yeah.
So sad.
The argument is so low IQ that I'm having trouble comprehending it.
Yeah, me too. It's quite sad that all these people just have to generate and make. They just have to generate and make up their own hate crimes in order to get people to feel bad for them. It's quite pathetic.
It's not even that. I want to be very specific. They don't want anyone to feel bad for them. They need to justify their hatred of white people. That's why this is happening. Because if you go, a month without some kind of racist news, then you start to lose a little bit of steam. It's not as easy to hate white people. You gotta keep it a constant pulse of the anti-white hatred going, and that's how you do it. You just write some stupid thing on the wall with a Sharpie. It takes 2 seconds, and then boom, some retard spreads it on Twitter. News agencies pick it up. They get coverage. They have marches for one retard with a Sharpie with 30 seconds worth of time who wrote something on a wall. Now we can justify white hatred again. It's really, it's effective, but again, it's all really required. The prerequisite is an incredibly low IQ, hyper-feminized population. Speaking of hyper-feminized, low IQ people, our next story is, maybe it doesn't apply. Maybe the founder of Black Lives Matter is high IQ, which is exactly why she just bought $1 million home in a neighborhood with a population of black people less than 2%. So that's right.
Yeah, good for her.
I I didn't phrase that properly. Let me try that again. BLM co-founder buys $1 million home in a neighborhood with black population of less than 2%. Because if we know anything about Black Lives Matter, their priority is empowering black people, and especially poor black people. If you're rich and you're in a white neighborhood, well, then you're probably not an ally. You're probably an enemy, right? I mean, that's probably what they would say.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
So
Black Lives Matter.
Topanga Canyon in California, which I'm not familiar with that area, but apparently it's outside of Malibu. $1.4 million home. $1.4 million home in a neighborhood that's 88% white. Fascinating that when they have the choice, they choose to live in white neighborhoods. Isn't that fascinating? Even somebody who leads the Marxist, racist organization Black Lives Matter, she chooses to live in a white neighborhood. Why didn't she spend $1.4 million, like refreshing a black neighborhood somewhere and living there and bringing business to the local businesses and doing all the things that she says everybody else should be doing for the black people? Again, it's not about black people lifting themselves up. It's not about black people fixing their own societies, fixing their own communities. It's about yelling at other people loud enough until they do it for you, which is manifested in this behavior right here. The founder of Black Lives Matter buying a rich house in a white neighborhood. Goes against everything that they advocate for.
She probably did have a house in like Compton or like in the black neighborhoods, but then she just got tired of being robbed and carjacked all the time. That she's like, you know what? I need to get out of here. I'm gonna go to where there's hardly any crime, which is Topanga Canyon.
Yeah, no, you might be right on that one. She got tired of living around black people. Is the founder of Black Lives Matter now racist? I
would say yes. According to their logic, yeah.
According to dirt.com, the home is located in Topanga Canyon, an idyllic rustic neighborhood about 48 minutes outside of Los Angeles and less than 30 minutes from Tony, Malibu. Color's new home has 3 bedrooms and 2 baths and sits on a quarter of an acre. The property also has a separate 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom guest house. What's most interesting is that the BLM co-founder chose to live in Topanga, where less than 2% of the population is black. Fascinating. And where did all that money come from, by the way? That's a real question here.
Oh, she earned it. She earned it by getting people to donate to her organization and fund her compound, because she needs this compound in Topanga Canyon as a she's probably gonna, when the revolution happens and the Civil War happens, she's gonna use it to protect all of her black friends and all of her black family. Well, so it's an investment into black future.
See, that's the angle that I was gonna try and take with this. Like, I thought it was gonna be. They use the word compound, but if you look at it, it's really just like Stalking Horse says in chat. 1.4 million doesn't get you much there. This is just like a 3-bedroom house on not even 2 acres of property. 1/4 of an acre. 3-bedroom house on a 1/4 acre. That's just a house. It's not a compound. So I was trying to I was trying to make the argument for her by doing exactly what you were saying, by trying to rationalize it and saying, well, she can use this as a compound, like Waco style, when all the Black Lives Matter mind-washed followers can go there and hold out for their final stand against the police type of thing, right? But nope, it's just a 3-bedroom house for her. That's it. So I don't know about you, but if I was somebody on the left and I was trying to donate money, I go to rallies, I go to protests, I'm out in the streets with signs, I'm yelling, I'm getting COVID because I don't want to obey mask laws and gathering rules, and I'm out there, right? I'm an activist. I donate money to Black Lives Matter because I want to help the black situation in America. But where's that money going? Not to help any black people. It's going to Patrisse Cullors so that she can buy a $1.4 million house. Would that make you a little upset?
If I actually gave money to Black Lives Matter last year, I would be super mad. I want my money back.
Yeah, that's so here's some tweets here from responses from people. Says, why is she getting rich off BLM movement? Shouldn't this money be going to black neighborhoods and struggling black families? Well, sir, you have a little
Right?
too much awareness. You need to have your Twitter account blocked. So thank you. Just please don't comment again. This guy says, Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrice Cullors just purchased $1 million mansion. She pimped the murders of black folks, especially black men and boys, to get that mansion. BLM founders are after the bag. They don't care about black people. That's why it's time to purge. Well, he's right on one thing, is that I don't know about the purge part, but he's right on the other part where he says that she pimped the murders of black folks. And that's why I said this money comes from the pain and suffering of black people, because that's exactly where it comes from. The business model of Black Lives Matter, because it is a business, we all know that now. They raise a lot of money. Mm-hmm. We all know that. The business model is literally to identify and amplify black suffering. That's her entire business model. That's her product. Her product is black suffering. And she was able to pimp or push or sell enough black suffering to buy a $1.4 million mansion. So we can tell one thing for sure. She loves capitalism. A little ironic for a Marxist, but she definitely loves capitalism.
Well, even Marxists love making money because they don't want to be the lower end of the Marxist scale. They want to be in the bourgeoisie and not have people serving below them.
That's right.
They're trying to get up into the upper echelons of the Marxist system that they want to implement so bad, because they know if they're on the lower end of the system that they're going to fail and they're not going to make it. They're not going to be able to profit off of capitalism.
Yeah, and Stalking Horse brings up a great point in chat. He says, I give her credit for her agency. Yes, exactly. I also say she is an example of a black person with agency. She's choosing to use capitalism to get personal gain, and this is the beautiful house that will get you that. And I gotta admit, it is beautiful. I don't know if it's worth $1.4 million. You scamming.
all that scamming led to something, so good for her, I guess. I mean, even though I feel bad for anybody that actually donated and gave money to this organization and believed that their money was actually going to something good. All it did was it bought a house for this lady and went to Joe Biden. Yay, good job. Black lives do matter. Yep.
To be honest, I would expect a little bit more for $1.4 million, but that's the California prices for you. By the way, the average home price in California is about $750,000. That's the average. So this is only twice the average price. So not that fantastic, and if you look at the pictures, it's really nothing special. But the point is, she had $1.4 million to burn. That's the point.
Right.
Here. So there you go. Just
stereo's racking up.
A hilarious commentary on the hypocrisy of Black Lives Matter, making money off of the backs of black suffering. Let's see what Stereo has to say about that. Bryce.
I mean, money has never gone into black neighborhoods and struggling black families from BLM or any of the different movements, because people don't actually care about individuals. We send millions, if not trillions and billions of dollars overseas, but still you see a homeless person every single day on your street. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes, good
Absolutely.
point.
If I'm being honest, I'm kind of waiting for the riots after Chauvin's pronounced innocent. Like, it's going to be biblical.
Biblical.
Black Lives Matter when they're buying me a nice big old fat mansion.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Well, see, this is the problem that one of the problems that I'm trying to solve with my alt-centrism philosophy, and that is that the alt-centrism, the centrism itself stands literally for physical proximity to you. Instead of sending money to some ethereal thing way out that you'll never see, you'll never know. Like, well, I can send a check to Botswana and try to be aid for them, but I don't know how that money's being spent. I don't know where it's going because it's so far away. I don't have any control over that. Same situation here. If you want to send money into like black communities, the most effective way to put money into the black communities is to do it yourself, because you're there. You're choosing the businesses that money's going to. You're choosing the business owners that you want to support. You're choosing the communities to raise up. The philosophy of all-centrism would lend a solution to this problem, where it is emphasizing fixing the problems yourself by participating in those communities, spending the money yourself as opposed to telling somebody way far away, again, not centrist, it's very far, to fix a problem for you, which is going to entail a lot of friction, a lot of waste, a lot of inefficiency. That's not the way to do it. You have to do it yourself. So Patrice Cullors does not follow the alt-centrist philosophy in repairing black communities. I'll say that. And I also agree that
not.
They're going to riot no matter what. So yeah, Bryce, definitely get ready because they're coming for you, man. They're coming.
Yeah, they're going to riot whether he's pronounced innocent of, or not guilty of murder, or whether he's guilty but not of murder. Because I think we can all agree, like, he didn't murder. He definitely killed the guy, but he didn't intend to do it. So if they get him on the manslaughter charges or whatever, they're going to riot. So it's a lose-lose, no matter what.
We got a new comment here from a new user, Peepaw.
Man, every other goddamn channel is talking about Chauvin.
Really?
And he innocent, but we don't give a fuck, nigga.
I mean, you don't give an F, but a lot of people do, unfortunately.
That's
a lot of people
funny.
do enough to actually go out and riot and, tear down their cities because they care so much.
So I didn't see any other channels talking about him, but I'm probably the only one saying he's innocent because there's a lot of, let's say there's a lot of black people on this app, and they are probably not agreeing with my point of view. Bryce.
It's like you were saying, money's getting sent somewhere, but we don't even know where it's going because just think about Haiti and all the money that the Clintons fucking took it for Haiti and the Clinton Foundation. Now it's defunct. Yep. And none of them Haitians got any of that money.
Bryce dropping the Hillary Clinton bomb. Oh, damn.
Yeah, no, we're not supposed to talk about that. But see, that wouldn't have happened if we were following an alt-centrist philosophy, because you don't send money that far away when you don't see what's going to happen to it. You don't see where it's going to be used, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, they're not coming for me because I'm an actual felon. I've paid the cost to be the boss, so I'm on the right side of history.
The Ritz, our resident.
The only way, in my opinion, to get rid of racial problems and racial imbalances in our country is for this country to fragment, to break up into separate countries and break up on racial lines. There is no racist problems in racially homogenous countries like Japan, China, and South Korea.
Well, see, that's where both sides agree. Both sides. Well, I don't know. The right, not so much, but the left is really pushing for segregation these days. We're already seeing it on small scales. They want, separate graduation ceremonies. They want separate parent-teacher conferences. It's manifesting very prominently in colleges and education right now. But they want segregation. They just call it by a different name. They don't say whites only. Instead of saying whites only, they say minorities only, or blacks only, or whatever. It's the same outcome, just different phrasing. So I think you're right, man. There was, I think it was Jack Basilbeck or someone like that commented on Twitter and said, multiculturalism is a failed experiment. And I would agree with that sentiment, because here's the thing. If you want to try it, I say, yes, let's do it. Let's try it. If multiculturalism sounds cool, it might work. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it an honest college try. But we do have to stop and do a progress report intermittently and ask ourselves if it's actually working. And I think at this point, we're getting very strong indications that it's not really working. So it might be time to start thinking about real solutions to that problems.
I agree, yeah. Well, Athenian in our YouTube chat says, a nation divided is easy pickings for Chinese invasion. And I've been saying that for a while. They want us to be divided and fragmented because it's easier to take over, or easier to just waltz through the front door if people just can't even agree on which gender they are. Then it's easy pickings.
Well, a lot of this division is, the problem with this division is that it can be used as a weapon for somebody who wants to be at war with us. A soft war, which is where we are right now. It's an information war. China is using that as a weapon against us. The Black Lives Matter thing, the racism thing, the gender stuff, those are the intellectual equivalents of ICBMs. Okay, just because there's not a physical missile exploding doesn't mean that there's not an equivalent level of damage being caused, or even greater level of damage being caused by these maladaptive ideas, these ideologies that are infesting colleges, infesting our youth, infesting our country. So yeah, it's we're definitely already at war, and a lot of this probably is being propagated by countries like China. Russia, not so much. You know, the left likes to say Russia, Russia, Russia. It's probably mostly China.
It's mostly China. Yeah, Dari in the YouTube chat also says they want to return to segregation to a point as long as it's advantageous to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. Like, they know that they can get the advantage if they return to segregation at this point, because the mind virus has been seeped into our culture so bad. It's totally advantageous for them because they know all the white liberals out there will just bend over and take it and be like, yes, we're evil because we're white. Even though I've done nothing wrong, they know that they could totally take advantage of the situation, and they are.
Anthony says amicable divorce. I think that'd be a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, here's the question. What is so wrong about having we already have parallel societies at multiple different levels. Every state is its own parallel society. Every city is its own parallel society. Why can't we have kind of a two-system thing in America? So if you want to opt in to paying 80% taxes, then you get universal health care, then you get all these leftist ideas that you kind of subscribe to. You can opt into that, but for everybody else, we can continue on with our regular lives where you don't mess with me, you don't take all my stuff, you don't use my money to pay for little Timmy to have his stomach pumped when he eats a Tide Pod, or, you know, the 70% obese population to get their whatever drugs they're going to be on to try and lose weight. I don't want to pay for all those, but some people do. So let them opt into that system. You can have, maybe, I'm just spitballing here, thinking out loud, because that's what we do with the Weekly Narrative. We think out loud. Just have maybe the multiple systems running in the same country that you can opt in or opt out of. I don't know. That's just a starting point, right? A logical separation, not a physical separation, because eventually you would need to get to a physical separation. But let's start soft, right? Let's ease into it with a logistical separation. Oh, we got a comment here from Synergy.
Gotta disagree with a nation divided is yada yada. If the nation divides on red, blue state lines, that's the best case scenario. The blue states have the Navy and the oceans, and that will deter the Chinese. And the blue states won't have the infantry, the deep south white rural population that abound in the combat arms. And it'll be a balance of terror. That's the best case. Everyone will be safe from the Chinese.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective. I like that. Thanks, Paul.
I mean, I guess if you think that the blue states can actually manage their budget to be able to afford to pay the Navy and, regulate the Navy, then yeah, we'll go with that.
The Navy's super woke. They won't even remember how to move boats around because they're all just going to be doing who knows what on the decks. Did you see? I think it was a Navy. Their logo was updated. The official Navy logo on Twitter was updated. The eagle has a mask on now.
The Navy was what?
The Navy logo on Twitter, the official Navy logo, it's an eagle.
Oh, they have.
And the eagle has a mask on.
Oh wow!
I remember,
super woke.
I think yeah. There's questions about the military's effectiveness because of we're encouraging transgender people to join and all that, and we're also eliminating meritocracy in the military, which is probably the last place that you want to eliminate meritocracy, but see how it turns out. Bryce is dropping like 8,000 comments. Bryce, I can't do these all, man. You gotta. I'll do your most recent ones here.
The eagle has a mask on. You seen Jim Crow? Wait till you get a load of Jim Eagle. What the hell does that mean, Biden? Come on, man.
That's what he meant by Jim Eagle. It's the Navy logo. That's Jim Eagle. He's out with the mask now.
I mean, blue states can't even afford to clean their streets. You know, right now I'm in NYC, but the year before last I was in San Francisco. These people can't even clean the streets. I mean, the poop map in SF. I mean, come on.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, as somebody that's lived in California my whole life, and it's been a blue state for, as long as I can remember, it's just slowly and surely, and like within the last like decade or so, it's just gotten worse and worse to where there's poop on the streets, like there's needles, there's all kinds of and we give these people their needles. We're funding the wrong things. So what makes Synergy think that giving all these resources to drug and alcohol riddled people, we're going to be able to afford to pay our Navy and have our Navy do a decent job? Like, come on, man.
I read a story today about people in San Francisco. They're complaining because there was a trash problem, and the way that they decided to solve the trash problem, and maybe Osis can chime in here because he's our resident San Francisco representative. They're complaining about there's nowhere to put trash anymore, so the trash is just everywhere in the streets. And the literal commentary from someone that they interviewed on the story was, she said, in an ideal world, we would have somewhere to put the garbage. Yeah, it's called the trash can, but you got rid of those. Literally, I think they got rid of the trash cans. So it's
got rid of the trash cans and put up needle exchange tents everywhere, so that way the drug addicts can safely do heroin on the streets as they live in their tents.
Guys, we got almost 40 viewers on live stream right now. I'm gonna need to get the engagement up. Okay, let's hit the thumbs up, get some likes on this bad boy. We got stereo going side by side with the YouTube here. I mean, we're double teaming this thing, and for our stereo listeners, if you want to take a look at us, we're on YouTube right now, streaming, dual streaming, youtube.com/weeklynarrative. We go live on Tuesdays and Saturdays, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you like what you hear, you can always hit the subscribe button and join us and join the chat. It's a good time. That's right. We got Bro Mike on stereo. Bro Mike.
Okay, yo, let me get this straight. Is this y'all news that y'all putting out, or is this the actual report from the news about Chauvin is innocent? That's bullshit, But I'll research on it.
Good question, sir. That is our current assessment of how the trial is going so far, based on the prosecution's witnesses they've brought forth. As of right now, the summarization of the argument that Chauvin is innocent is that the prosecution's case is incredibly weak. There is beyond reasonable doubt that he did not intend to kill George Floyd, and that is what is necessary to get a conviction for murder in this case. So right now, it does not even look like it's anywhere close to being a guilty verdict for murder. Thank you for the question. We got Bryce. He's back with a couple follow-ups here.
I mean, SF didn't get rid of the trash can. It fucking is the trash can. Y'all got this hilarious video on my Instagram. Then one day I was walking down the street, and then I have a video of like a guy or whoever in a tent, and there's like a parking meter next to it, and I'm like, I don't pay no parking.
All right, one more from Bryce.
Burn it down, burn all of Minneapolis down, burn down the Cup food store where he was trying to pass off a $20 bill, and then he was trying to buy a banana, and he was jumping around and walking around like he loved bananas.
I mean, it's
this guy's awesome.
That's factually accurate. He was purchasing a banana, and then he was purchasing some tobacco. Yeah, so that's amazing.
With a fake 20 too. Don't forget that.
Right. Homelessness in California is insane right now, says Anthony. Yes, I'm in the capital of California, and I can vouch for that personally. I've seen an explosion in tent cities and whatnot in downtown Sacramento, probably because they're unsustainable in San Francisco, so they're migrating over to Sacramento, and not happy about that. Let's see.
Nick in the YouTube chat wants to know if we're going to start doing COVID soon, because I'm pretty sure she wants to chime in on stereo for COVID updates from the UK.
Perfect timing. Just jumping into it right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to switch over to our COVID segment. We're already 2 hours in, and we generally only do 2 hours, but you know how stereo goes. These streams go long because we love getting their participation. We love talking about the comments in the YouTube chat. Let's do a 180 into the COVID topics of the day. First one here from CNN. Now, as far as the general COVID trend lately, it's kind of seemed to be a little bit more positive, right? States are starting to open up. California has announced its reopening. Texas and Mississippi, or whatever it was, Missouri, completely removed all mask mandates a few weeks back, and they have not had any sharp increases in cases. The general trend for COVID, the narrative, has been leaning on the positive side. And there's been, general sentiments about reopening in America, right? So CNN got wind of that. They got wind that the COVID news has been kind of positive lately, and they want to make sure to remind everybody that you're supposed to be afraid, you're supposed to be in fear, and you're supposed to be concerned. Okay, so this is directly from CNN.com. It says, "Don't be misled by good COVID-19 news in some nations. The pandemic is worse than ever elsewhere." So, again, they want to make sure that you don't get too positive. Don't think that you're not going to be able to fly around without vaccine passports and getting the vaccinations and wearing your mask every single day, even when you're alone in your car. You still got to do all that. Okay, the news isn't actually good. So.
Dang, I thought we were getting close to herd immunity, but I thought wrong.
Well, that's
just
the thing. We
gotta
probably
keep drinking that fear Kool-Aid.
We probably actually are, but again, CNN, that's their cash cow right now. So from CNN.com, there's a light at the end of the COVID-19 tunnel in the United States and the UK. Israel may already be on the other side, while Australia and New Zealand never left daylight. But everywhere else, the pandemic is worse than ever, with the virus scything.
Oh, okay.
That's a great verb right there. I got to give it to this writer. Scything. The virus is scything through nations, and widespread vaccinations still months away. In just the last few days, Poland has smashed its daily COVID death toll. Brazil, mired in disaster, largely because of President Jair Bolsonaro's preening negligence. He's more of a right-leaning guy, so they'll take any chance they can to take a swing at him. They recorded its deadliest day at the deadliest month since the start of the pandemic. That's a lot of the usage of the word deadly in one sentence.
Right? I was gonna say that's so Henri, man. That's so like I would be afraid if I was a total leftist mind virus infected person.
Yeah, and the final sentence here says Peru, afflicted with a variant first discovered in Brazil, just saw its worst daily death toll. So just look at the language that they use in this. Virus is scything through nations. Poland smashed its daily COVID death toll. Brazil is mired in disaster. Jair Bolsonaro.
The person who wrote this is definitely checking in on the thesaurus regularly to find new synonyms for words.
Right. So, they want to make sure that you don't get too happy, okay? Because summer's coming. Your moods might be a little elevated because we're not in winter anymore, so you don't have the seasonal depression. You're coming out of that. You get to go see your friends now. But we got to smash all that optimism.
No suns out, guns out, folks.
No, put the guns away. Smashing the optimism.
Dang it.
You're going to get scythed in half by the virus, and Jair Bolsonaro's coming for you too because he's a fascist, and we got to name drop him every time we can. India on Thursday tallied a record high of 126,000 new cases in a single day. Iraq, Turkey, Cuba, Argentina, and Chile are putting up new peaks in COVID-19 infections. Even in the United States, where 3 million vaccines are administered every day, a surge in new cases is underway as younger people fall prey to new variants. Jesus, just listen to the language. We all, this may be true to some degree, but can we all acknowledge they're at least trying to make it sound as bad as possible?
Yeah, they're definitely playing on the doomsday mindset when it comes to this crap.
Yes, indeed. And right on perfect timing, we've got our UK correspondent from our COVID expert, Moneypenny. Let's go to her for comment on this.
Scything through things, not scything. Scything. Anyway, British correspondent here, update. My personal concern at the moment is that whilst 99% of coronavirus cases in the UK are now the B117 variant, which is the Kent variant, and the remaining percentage is growing very rapidly, which comes from the South African, the Brazilian, and the Nigerian variants called VOCs, or variants of concern. In the United States, it has now become the predominant variant, so that over 50% of cases across the whole of the United States are the Kent variant, the B117. You and everybody else are being vaccinated by a series of vaccines that were designed to combat the P1, the first version of COVID-19. They were not designed to combat the variants. And indeed, there are studies going on at the moment, but it is unlikely that the efficacy will be near.
Mm-hmm. That's how they're going to get us. The variants, right? And now VOCs, that's a new term. I haven't heard that before. And apologies for butchering the Queen's English. I know it's not my language. It's really your language. I'm sorry about that. Scything. So we've been hearing a lot about the variants over here, and the narrative so far has been, well, we think that our vaccines are going to have coverage for these new variants, or they're generally going to be effective. But she's saying that they're probably not. So that's a little frightening, because now we can see an endless road of, new variants. You know what that means? Time to get another shot. So it's like every month you're going to the line to get another shot for whatever variant that happens to be out at the time. Synergy in chat brings up a great point. He says COVID-19 is endemic, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be something that's just here all the time, like the flu, like other viruses or illnesses that we have a seasonal occurrence with. It's just here, and we got to deal with it.
Right.
And all the variants.
This whole COVID-19 vaccination, it's going to just turn into just every season you're going to have to get it. It's going to be a new variant. It's going to be a new strain, just like the flu shot. And me personally, I've never gotten a flu shot, so I definitely not gonna start now.
Yeah, me
no,
neither.
Thank you.
I've never gotten a flu shot. And here's the other thing too. I just read today that the Moderna vaccine has a 6-month efficacy for providing the quote-unquote immunity for it. So they're saying if you get the Moderna, it's only good for 6 months. So you got to go back twice a year, and that's if in all the variables are controlled for and are static, meaning there are no other variants coming out, there's no other crazy situations happening. Even if it was just the regular old COVID that we got right now, no B117s, you got to get the shots every 6 months to maintain that immunity. That's what it's sounding like anyway, which is like nobody... do you think it'd be important to know that before they started mass distributing the shots? Like, wouldn't you want to know, like, if it's the polio shots or like the chicken pox or whatever it is? We got those. It's like a one and done for life, right? This one, it's nobody says before you get it, hey, you're gonna have to get this twice a year. Or what they really said, which would have been the truth, was we don't know how long this is actually going to last for. You might have to come back next week.
Right? Yeah. I'm just not a really keen on the idea of having to get inoculation every few months like this, or every year. It's just who is somebody in the chat? Oh, MA in the chat says, I never got a flu shot either. Figure it's good for my immune system to work. And I'm on the same boat. Like, I've never gotten the flu either. Or at least, like, if I have gotten the flu, it hasn't been so bad to the point where I'm hospitalized. It's usually I just, I'm young, I'm healthy. I go outside and, use the best disinfectant that we have, the sun. And, I try to eat right. And I feel like that is a better way to help yourself out than just getting yourself knocked up with all of these chemicals that you don't really know what's in them.
Who could have possibly foreseen this situation working out advantageously for Big Pharma? What mind-blowing that outcome is what we're looking at now. Like, for Big Pharma's like, oh yeah, we got 300 million people that need to be vaccinated twice a year.
Right.
And yeah, what a shocker that is. Some people are having adverse reactions to the J&J vaccines. Well, Dari, that's a topic that's a little off limits. I think we can't really talk about the adverse effects from these vaccines. I mean, we talked about it last week, but I think they're up to nearly 3,000 recorded deaths in the official CDC database from the adverse reactions. But we can't talk about that. I think there was actually a CNN contributor. Her name was Midwin Charles. She just passed away a few days ago, and she got the vaccine. She was on Twitter complaining about not feeling well, and she had mentioned previously in a previous tweet that she has a deadly allergy to peanuts, and that she has to carry around the EpiPen in case she has a reaction, and that she was concerned about that when she got her vaccination. So, and there's some speculation that DMX, the rapper who just died, also just recently got the vaccination. So I'm not.
I was just about to mention that. I was like, I heard that DMX got the vaccine too, and he shortly after had like a heart attack or a stroke or something. And the mainstream media was saying that he suffered an overdose, but his family is coming out and saying no, he didn't. He didn't have a drug overdose. He got the vaccine.
MA says someone died after taking the vaccine. Well, MA, the official death count for the vaccine adverse reactions is about 3,000 right now, just for the United States. Let's go. We got a comment from Paul.
We all know what COVID is. It's a stupid virus for worthless, aimless, familyless people to freaking flex authority and power on their neighbors. I was promised the Black Plague, the strong dog. We got weak dog. We got COVID. Crying dog. That's what we got. It's pathetic.
Yeah, I wanted like a Monty Python where it's ding, bring out your dead. Ding. I wanted something like that. Like where are the death carts? I was hoping for death carts where I bring out my dead and add him to the death cart, but there's none of that.
Yeah, we ended up with a lousy 99.94% survival rate for anyone under 60. Come on, how lame is that?
Dang it!
We need at least a 10% death rate for something real, you know? Imagine how they're going to react when something like that really does happen. And that's the glorious part that I keep bringing up about this whole COVID thing, is that this is how ineffectively we react to a virus with a 99.9% survival rate. Imagine what's going to happen when we get something like a super Ebola or something like that, has like a 20% kill rate. Jesus, we're all dead.
Where are the death carts, yo? I wanted some death carts. Come on, man.
Bryce, and then we got one from Moneypenny.
Well, yeah, but like they say, the efficacy isn't, it's only 6 months. That's the whole thing. Like 6 months isn't anything. So that means like they're going to be continually updating your system, as Bill Gates says. And that's even what I said at the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, hey, everybody, get ready for your Windows update. And wow, magically, that's exactly what they're trying to fucking do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in the industry, there's what's known as Patch Tuesday, because Microsoft releases patches every second Tuesday of the month, I believe it is. So now we have a Patch Tuesday for the human body, because we just, hey guys, it's time for your updates. Oh, yep, all right, we're gonna get the latest patch here.
Yeah, we're also gonna install things on the back of your head, and you just jack right in on Tuesdays, and then once you plug in on Tuesdays, you're just never going to plug out eventually.
The problem with the Microsoft updates is that a lot of times they break stuff. So what if, and I just had this thought as I was saying that, what if they actually turned it into a patch? Because what's going to happen is people are going to say, well, I don't want to go get a shot, and they're going to try to make it easier to apply, right? They want it easier to whatever the word is, implement, or when they give you a dose, you know what I'm saying? When they give you the dosage, they've got to get it easier, more streamlined, so you don't have to wait in line for a shot. What if they actually turned it into a physical patch, like a non-smoking patch that you put it on? So you literally go get patched. That'd be awesome. And dystopian. We got a Moneypenny.
The other big update in the UK, which obviously is very relevant to the United States and anywhere else, is regarding the AstraZeneca virus, which was pulled a few weeks ago on the basis of fears about blood clots.
Yep.
At the time, it was decided that this was down to a political war, particularly because AstraZeneca as a company was not providing enough distribution to European partners like Germany and Brussels. However, there has now been further research, and there has been an admission from the UK health agencies that 139 people reported blood clots from taking the AstraZeneca virus. 19 of those have died. It is now basically being stopped for all children under 30s and anyone else in trials that they're not to take the AstraZeneca vaccine. But we now have shortages of other vaccines, and this will potentially follow on through to other organisations like Johnson & Johnson, whose vaccine has also been found to do potential blood clot side effects.
Well, that's what happens when you roll out mass testing in production. You don't actually go through any real testing.
Right.
You're gonna get some.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the efficacy dates, 6 months. It's something you should have known before you start distributing this thing on a mass scale. But Fauci said do it, so I'm going to do it. When Fauci tells me to put the patch on, I'm going to put the patch on. Fauci tells me to put 4 masks on,
Right.
I'm going to put 4 masks on.
Don't question anything, Jeremy,
Nope.
or else you're going to be rounded up and zapped.
Dari says Bill Gates is going to build a giant tower to block out the sun. Yeah, that's a whole new interesting topic that we'll have to talk about on another stream, because they are literally talking about sun blocking technology now. Better to laugh than cry. Agree, Synergy. Yeah, we got to laugh at this stuff rather than be get depressed by it. Let's see.
Yeah, that's my job. I try to be the comic relief of the this dynamic duo that we have here. I try to bring a little lightheartedness to it, but unfortunately, some people can't see my my sarcasm and take me very seriously. And I try to warn people, don't take me seriously.
Fauci should put the patch on his mouth. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Stocking works. Let's see. There was a good one that I wanted to read here. Do you have any? Oh, PJ fan says, do you have any comment on the Vancouver Canucks hockey team being affected by the Wuhan flu? No, I do not actually. Not a hockey
I
fan.
don't.
Get well soon.
Yeah, I'm a true American. I don't care about hockey.
I'm
Sorry.
sad to see the hockey teams are affected by the Chinese weaponry. Let's just say that.
Right, me too.
That's a
Like,
half
I
joke,
thought
YouTube.
hockey would be the one that's. I thought hockey would be the one that's like, no, we don't care. We'll take it. We'll just take whatever we get. But no, hockey bent over too.
Bryce.
No, you're right, young D. Like, most people have never gotten the flu vaccine. Like, I mean, I remember in prison they try to give everybody the flu vaccine, and I'm like, no, I'm good. A whole bunch of dudes lined up for it. It's like, okay, guys.
Yeah, see, even in prison, like you don't need it. You don't need to take it. Like if they're all crammed together and given all the free stuff not free, but given all the stuff while they're there, like why do you need it? You should be fine.
The strange phenomenon that's occurring right now in society is this thing where everyone kind of just assumes that you're going to get the vaccine. So the question is always, oh, have you gotten your vaccine yet? Or when are you getting your vaccine?
Right.
That's a kind of a strange assumption that you have and that you got to kind of question when there's a mass behavioral modifications like that where everyone just assumes that you're going to get the vaccines or something like that. There might be something else going on there. And that's what we're seeing now. So people are just absolutely shocked when I say I'm not getting vaccinated. And then when they say, well, why not? I say, well, I never get the flu vaccine either. I mean, there's no reason for me to get the vaccine. And then I go on to cite, well, I have like a less than 1% chance of dying to this thing. I don't take vaccines for something that mild. And then they say what? They say, well, what you could spread to other people. And then I get to educate them and tell them that the vaccine does not prevent you from getting or carrying or reproducing the virus. And at which point they're like, what? I didn't know that. And then, they get red pilled and then they get mad at me. So, Moneypenny.
Yeah.
Hold on, Miss Young Degenerative Lesbian. The sun is your disinfectant. Whoa, I'm not coming around to eat at your house or use your bathroom or maybe play with you and fiddle with you. And no, let's stop there. But hang on. The sun provides vitamin D. The countries with more sun and a higher climate, heat, temperature, and those that have more people living outdoors, like Africa, have done incredibly better with controlling their COVID cases. This is true.
I meant for me personally, my body, my immune system. I didn't mean for like my house. Of course, I clean my house and disinfect my house, but I'm talking like me personally for my personal health. Like I don't take shots for the flu or anything like that to prevent myself from getting sick.
I'm more of a natural selection kind of guy anyway. I think if we keep modifying ourselves so far beyond the baseline human behavior, the baseline human body, what it's capable of, you're gonna reach a point to where something's gonna happen that's so devastating that the human body won't be able to naturally defend against it. Like we're gonna become so weak and soft that something that shouldn't kill you or kill a large portion of the population will, because you don't have the artificial protections in place, aka a vaccine, for example. Your immune system becomes so weak because you got all these artificial protections in place, like masks in your car, not being around people, not touching anything, not being exposed to this kind of stuff. Just to kind of I think on a long-term scale, that's probably not a good thing for humanity. John Steele.
What are some topics you fall more left of center on, and what are some of your criticisms of the right? I don't know if the whole alt-centrism thing is a meme, and I'm out of the loop, but I just hear a lot of right-wing stuff on here. And I don't mean right-wing in the loaded Reddit version of right-wing, but just in the name of being fair.
So, stuff that we attacked the right on. I think the most recent attack, quote-unquote attack that I did was a complete disassembly of the election hacking narrative that the Trump supporters were trying to say. There was a whole documentary, like an hour and a half long, about how the elections was hacked. I destroyed that. In my day job, I am a cybersecurity professional, so I like to use my expertise on that when I can. And that's a pretty big narrative on the right. So if you attack the election hacking thing, you're not friendly to the right. And things that I agree with on the left, I generally agree with liberalism in general. I think you should be liberal in how you control people, let them do whatever they want for the most part. I guess it's not really leftist anymore, but the thing about alt-centrism and why it's hard to answer that question is because the alt-centrism is not about the traditional political spectrum. Alt-centrism isn't meaning centrist on a left-right political spectrum. It's an inward-outward political spectrum where you emphasize political change or close community, close to you, family, community, extended family, and implementing changes there as opposed to implementing changes in something that's farther away, like the federal government. So it's, that's the whole point about an alt-centrist is we don't have stances on the left or the right. We are not on the traditional left-right spectrum. So you'll learn more about it if you listen to this, but appreciate the question anyway. Yeah, I definitely do take pot shots at the right whenever I can. Yeah, I got a lot of shit for that. That video that I made on the debunking the election hacking thing.
Oh yeah, you did. Oh yeah, you
People
did.
were so mad.
You went after Mike Lindell's irrefutable. He went after Mike Lindell's irrefutable proof that election fraud happened, and people were not happy about that at all.
Yeah, it was.
And I think that the thing about the criticism that we have on the right, it's kind of the same that we have on the left, like the people on the far right, that they're so far gone that they can't see any voice of reason and like bring it back to center. And we criticize both ends of like that far spectrum. It's just easier to attack the left because they control everything. They control education, media, government. They're in control of everything. So it's easy
exactly. Uh-oh. Did we lose? I think I lost reconnecting with the young degenerate lesbian. This happens occasionally. Now we're back.
I'm here. We're back.
Welcome
Sorry
back.
about that.
It's all good.
But yeah, like the right doesn't really control anything anymore. Like we had, the right as our president, but now that's gone. So yeah, it's easier to attack the left right now. That's why we kind of go after them a little bit more.
New guy in chat. Check you out. Is his username. Let's see what he says.
We're definitely right on our way to being a gray.
To being a gray. I don't know what that.
It'll be like a real life episode of Doctor Who.
I've never watched Doctor Who.
I've never watched it either, so I'm very blind to that.
Night, Holly. Thanks for. Oh, Athenia. Who's leaving? I can't tell who's leaving. Somebody said night, and then they're all responding.
Athenian's leaving.
Oh, all right. See you later, Athenian.
Yeah, Athenian's leaving.
We're going late tonight. Are you good on time, Delaney? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Right.
We can keep going.
All right, cool. We got another one from this guy.
Just remember, if they have to keep constantly updating you and advertising to you and telling you, is it a real virus?
Yeah, it's
That's
more
a
of
good
like
question.
It's more of a product at that point. It has all the characteristics of a product that you're selling me. I'm less inclined to believe it's about public safety and public health, right? 6 months. It's almost like a 6-month recurring subscription. Subscribe now to your COVID-19 vaccine. What if they have like competing companies? Our vaccine is better than the others. You only have to get ours once every year. Like, why don't the companies compete against each other like that? Right now, it's just kind of like you go to get the vaccine and you get whatever you get. I want to see some real competition. Like our vaccine is not going to kill you. Our vaccine is not going to give you Bell's palsy. Our vaccine is not going to get you blood clots. Let's fight it out. Let's see some capitalism. Come on.
It's real life, like experimentation.
Interesting point. In terms of application, the forward thinking, given the amount of tweaks and updates that will be required to the vaccines, which, as you say, are only going to last for a certain amount of months, is a nasal spray. That's because it's primarily nasopharyngeal contagion, and depending on the severity of that, that also can dictate how much of the virus and how much of the burden people get. So using a nasal spray is being used particularly for that purpose.
There we go. Yeah, that's probably a better application than a patch. Although it would be funny to say I'm getting patched, just as an IT guy.
Instead of saying getting poked, you're getting patched.
Yeah, definitely. Even if the vaccine is efficacious, I would definitely take a nasal spray version over a stab anyway. So.
Yeah, me too.
All right,
we got a $5 super chat in the YouTube.
Steve.
Steve with the $5 super chat.
Says, "Rip Fred Berry. Life ain't the same without you, bro." And I have to do the inevitable Googling of who Fred Berry is here.
I'm Googling it right now. Oh, American actor, street dancer. Oh.
He died 20 years ago.
Oh, we love you, Steve.
Thanks for that, Steve. Appreciate those all the time. Always get a good laugh out of me anyway. We kind of
just random rest in pieces. I love it.
We cultivate trolls in this chat, but they're not your average low IQ trolls. These are more, higher skilled trolls, a little more subtle in their methodologies, and he is one of them. Thank you for that. Okay, let's go to our next COVID story here, and you guys may have heard about this one. I think I probably say that about every story. I could probably stop saying that, but this is from New Zealand. And we all know New Zealand has handled COVID so well, because we've been told over and over and over about New Zealand. Look at New Zealand and how well they did. Look at New Zealand. They have no COVID cases. Well, there's a lot they don't tell you about New Zealand, and this is one of those things. I'm not going to play the video here, but because the stereo users won't hear this, but essentially what's happening in what's happening in New Zealand is the Prime Minister outlines how private companies will be obliged to ensure employees are vaccinated. That's right. So no jab, no job. That's the new policy in New Zealand, and it's not, their first stages of this are not all encompassing. It doesn't mean if you work at McDonald's you have to have the jab, but if you listen to her explanation of this, you can find this online. She talks about how anyone who's working at like ports, airports, seaports, anywhere there's like lots of travel, you are now going to be required to have the vaccine to be employed there. And if you aren't employed by a certain time, which she says in the video, you will be moved on, I think is the terminology she used, which I don't know if that's a euphemism in New Zealand Kiwi terms for being fired, but also the physiognomy here of her is very telling in her body language. It's almost as if she's trying to convince you with her body, as she's got massive head movements up and down. I'm trying to describe this for the stereo users, but it's very, very, very strange. It's almost like she's trying to throw the ideas into your head with the movement of her head. Anyway, that's what's going to be happening in New Zealand. We all know New Zealand was hailed for their treatment of the vaccine, the COVID virus, because they ended up with no cases. What they didn't tell you about New Zealand was that they had such strict lockdown policies that if they had a single case of COVID, and this did happen multiple times, it was about maybe a month and a half ago, they had one case in Auckland, and they locked the entire country down because of it. One case, and they locked the country down for, I believe it was 2 weeks. So ask yourself how sustainable that really is. If one guy comes in, has COVID, you destroy your, not entirely, but you destroy your economy for 2 weeks. You shut your entire main city down, and then at maximum level, by the way, maximum level of restriction, and then the rest of your country gets on like level 2 restriction because you have one case. So that's how they're, and you didn't hear about that in CNN, right? You didn't hear about that in MSNBC. You didn't hear about that anywhere because you don't hear about the fact that they're annihilating themselves to prevent having these COVID cases in their country. And is it any coincidence that their prime minister is a female? What have we been talking about this whole entire time? The hyper-feminization of society. This is the exact same response. This is how ingrained the feminization of society has become, because I can literally point to the same exact phenomenon happening in this story, happening in the story about the racism hoax at Albion College, happening at United Airlines. It's all the stories we talk about have this underlying it. So I could probably quote and I'm going to do that actually. I'm going to quote the hate hoax girl and tell me if this isn't exactly what they're doing with New Zealand and their lockdown strategy and now their vaccination requirements for employment. This is what they said about the hate hoax. Someone has to put an end to this. Put security cameras in the hallways. Whatever is going to bring punishment to this blatant COVID-19. Oh, it's the same exact logic applied to COVID. Whatever it takes to stop a single case of COVID coming up, whatever it takes to get equal representation of females as pilots. Guys, are you seeing the trends here? Are you seeing how hyperfeminization of society is underlying all of these things? That's really exactly what's going on now. So it's no coincidence that the Prime Minister of New Zealand is a female, and they're treating their response in the most feminine manner. Anything, whatever is necessary to bring 100% safety, because that's what feminine nature emphasizes, is safety over risk tolerance.
Jeremy, that's so sexist of you. How dare you?
I know. Well, hey, if I can back that up with science and studies, is it really sexist? Or I guess those are just the studies that we don't talk about, the off-limits studies.
Yeah.
The science that we don't want to talk about.
Science is sexist too.
Yeah, Emma, you missed the new racism hoax. Somebody wrote a Sharpie on a wall in a college, kill all N-words, and then they found out it was a hoax, but they still paused all classes and went on marches for the hoax. So, yeah, that was a fun one. But hopefully, I'm trying to grind this into your guys' skull that everything you're seeing is resulting, everything that's making life suck these days in modern times is largely from the hyperfeminization of society and the treatment of everything in a feminine way. A masculine response to COVID isn't to lock the entire country down for one case. But we're hailing New Zealand as the epitome of the proper response to COVID, and now they're the first ones to announce that the vaccines are going to be required for employment. So there you go. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, that's something that my dad discussed with me earlier in the week. He called and was like, "Hey, because I don't have like a daytime job right now because of COVID. I was laid off from my job last year because of it." And he was like, if you're gonna possibly get a job, you might want to consider getting vaccinated because they might not want to hire you unless you're vaccinated.
Yep.
And I was just like, can they even do that?
Oh, yes, they can.
Are they? Oh, I know that they totally can. They can totally pass on me if I don't want to get vaccinated. But at this point, it's like in California, especially, there are lots of employers that are like biting to try to get some freaking people in the door to work for them. But people would rather stay on unemployment and not work.
Steve says in the YouTube chat, "I want to get vaccinated 10 times and become an X-Men."
Right? Me too. I want to be I want to be a pretty mutant like the X-Men, not like a Murloc. I don't want to be a Murloc.
Matt,
or Morlock.
Yeah, right. Matt summarizes this entire thing exactly perfectly. He says, "The god of safety and scientism." That is what we are worshiping now. That is what the hyper-feminized society worships, is the god of safety and scientism. Not science, not the scientific method, scienceism. Well put, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Canada missed a great opportunity to rid itself of Quebec. Okay, thank you for that. Rip Canada. People are talking trash about Canada in chat.
No, blame Canada, not rip Canada. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No. We got.
I'm pulling a quote from South Park.
Well, I found a study on the effects of wearing masks, and I'm compelled to find some information on this because I've been seeing so many people in California in their cars wearing masks alone which I'm struggling to understand. And I went searching.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I went searching for some data on what happens. Is there any adverse health effects from wearing a mask? And I figured I'd share that with you guys today, because we love science here. I love science. You love science. We're not science-ismers. We're scientists. You'll go with that. We love science, real science. This is from the NCBI, National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. And pull this up here real quick. Face masks in the COVID-19 era, a health hypothesis. I'm going to try to summarize this. It's fairly long, but I'm going to give you some highlights as far as, because you might be wondering, what happens to me if I wear a mask? I know, we've heard in the news about, you don't get as much oxygen, you recirculate air, things like that. And a lot of that is true, but we're going to go over, we're looking at a study, okay? So now this is official. This is real stuff. This is basically undeniable truth at this point, because it's a study, and we all know that science is the god. Physiological effects of wearing face masks. Wearing face masks mechanically restrict breathing by increasing the resistance of air movement during both inhalation and exhalation processes. Although intermittent and repetitive increase in respiration resistance may be adaptive for strengthening respiratory muscles, which means if you do it a few times a week and you do it for like 10 to 15 breaths, like very intermittent, not constant. Constant and prolonged continues effect of wearing face masks is maladaptive and could be a detriment for health. In normal conditions at sea level, air contains 20% oxygen, and providing partial pressures of 100. Okay, these are science numbers. I don't need to go over there. But the gas concentrations are significantly altered when breathing occurs through the face mask. The trapped air remaining between the mouth, nose, and the face mask is rebreathed repeatedly in and out of the body containing low oxygen and high CO2 concentrations, causing hypoxemia and hypercapnia. I don't know what hypercapnia is, but I do know, thanks to the George Floyd trial, that hypoxemia means low oxygen in the blood. Severe hypoxemia may also provoke cardiopulmonary and neurological complications and is considered an important clinical sign in cardiopulmonary medicine. Low oxygen content in the arterial blood can cause myocardial ischemia, serious arrhythmias, right or left ventricular dysfunction, dizziness, hypotension, syncope, I don't know what that word is, and pulmonary hypertension. Chronic low-grade hypoxemia and hypercapnia as a result of using a face mask can cause exacerbation of existing cardiopulmonary, metabolic, vascular, and neurological conditions. So there you go. And we've got a nice table here. Physiological effects include hypoxemia, hypercapnia, shortness of breath, increased lactate concentration. You might want to take note of that one, Delaney. Decline in pH levels.
Why? Is it because I have boobs?
Well, it's not for me. Acidosis,
Okay.
toxicity, inflammation, self-contamination, increase in stress hormones, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol, increased muscle tension, immunosuppression. Those are the physiological effects. The psychological effects include an activation of the fight or flight stress response, chronic stress conditions, fear, mood disturbances, insomnia, fatigue, compromised cognitive performance. And the health consequences overall include increased predisposition for viral and infection illnesses, because the mask is basically a rebreather trap for viruses and illnesses and bacteria. Headaches, anxiety, depression, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer, exacerbation of existing conditions, accelerated aging, health deterioration, and premature mortality. And no, I did not just read the side effects of the latest pharmaceutical. That is the health consequences of wearing a face mask and the potential health consequences. So there's a lot more in here that if you guys want to get into the details, the study is available if you want to read through, but it's quite bad. And they actually, a question was raised on Twitter because I was arguing about this back and forth on Twitter. People were saying, well, people have been wearing masks in professions for forever, and they don't have any problems. Well, actually, the study took that into account. So the adverse physiological effects were confirmed in a study of 53 surgeons where surgical face masks were used during a major operation. After 60 minutes of face mask wearing, just 1 hour, The oxygen saturation dropped by more than 1%, and heart rate increased by approximately 5 beats per minute. Another study among 158 healthcare workers using protective personal equipment, primarily N95 masks, reported that 81% developed new headaches during their work shifts as these become mandatory due to COVID-19 outbreak. For those who use the N95 face mask greater than 4 hours per day, the likelihood for developing a headache during the work shift was approximately 4 times higher. While 82% of the N95 wearers developed headache already within 10 to 50 minutes. So 4 times higher headaches, lower oxygen saturation after just 1 hour, increase in heart rate. And now this is after 1 hour. Imagine what you're doing if you're doing that for 9 hours a day for weeks on end.
Yeah, that's no bueno. It's no bueno for sure.
Well, it's I'm not saying don't wear a mask. All I'm doing is exactly what I'm told is a good thing to do, which is present you with the facts. These are facts from a study. All the references are there. If you wanted to go look them up, it's all on the stream. You can see for yourself. I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. But why aren't we told this stuff? Nobody says that you're going to get 4 times greater likelihood to have a headache. You're going to have lower oxygen in your blood. You're going to have bacteria saturating your mask that you're going to be breathing in and out constantly. And they were talking about that here. This is a great paragraph, and then I'll hit the stereo comment, but let's just listen to this. In addition to the hypoxia and hypercapnia, breathing through face mask residues, bacterial and germs components on the inner and outside layer of the face mask. These toxic components are repeatedly rebreathed back into the body, causing self-contamination. Breathing through face masks also increase temperature and humidity in the space between the mouth and the mask, resulting in a release of toxic particles from the mask's materials. That's interesting. So the actual material that the mask is made out of is activated by the heat from your mouth. It's similar to how like a BPA plastic water bottle left in the sun will have the chemicals leach out into the water. A systemic literature review estimated that aerosol contamination levels of face masks, including 13 to 202,000 different viruses. Rebreathing contaminated air with high bacterial and toxic particle concentrations, along with low oxygen and high carbon dioxide levels, continuously challenge the body homeostasis, causing self-toxicity and immunosuppression. But hey, put 4 of them on and don't ask any questions.
Don't you dare ever question anything or critically think or even read this study, because you need to trust the science and trust Fauci, because Fauci's never wrong.
It's disgusting. You rebreathing. Imagine somebody wearing a mask for 9 hours a day. You don't switch it out. So you got this, just a hive of bacteria on your face that you're feeding and growing and inhaling constantly. That's disgusting. And nobody wants you to know about these facts. These are forbidden facts. Let's just say that. These are the facts that they don't want you to know, because you may come to the wrong conclusion. You may come to the conclusion that we don't want you to come to if you are knowledgeable of these facts. We got two new commenters in the stereo. Let's jump to we got one from Aaron.
Dude, it's hilarious. The CDC, you can look this up, says that 70% of people in their own study who wore masks still got COVID. There's also, on the CDC website, they say if 2 people are wearing masks and social distancing and another person has COVID, you're still going to get it. So it's like, what the hell is the point of these masks if they don't stop you from getting the virus? I think it's psychological conditioning to get you to accept what they tell you to do without questioning it.
Absolutely.
It sure
That's
seems
what I've
that
said
way.
from day one. It's a psychological operation. It's a way for them to see who's going to comply and who's not, who's a sheep, who's not. The people who are wearing double masking while they're driving alone in a car, they know that person's going to be able to be easily manipulated and easily told like what to do, what to say, how to think. Whereas a person who actually does research and understands that the mask isn't going to 100% protect you oh, that's somebody that you don't want to associate with. That's not going to be able to be manipulated and be controlled. He's right. It's about control.
Yeah, and here's something that got completely memory hold. Now ask yourself why that we're not told this anymore, because he brings up a good point. The study about the two people wearing a mask and then one guy coming in and then they get infected is because the mask isn't to protect you. The mask doesn't stop anything from coming in. The mask is to lessen the spread of particulate and vapor and water from your face, not to stop anything from coming in. But everybody kind of has shifted the mentality 180 degrees into thinking that a mask protects you. That's not what it's for, which is exactly why in a case where you have two people wearing a mask and one person not wearing a mask, the two people who are wearing a mask get infected, because that stupid cloth mask that you're wearing, it's not medical grade. It doesn't stop virus particles that are aerosolized from getting through your mask and into your lungs or into your mucous membranes or whatever it is. So we don't talk about that anymore. We used to say that. The news used to tell you that. Now they don't tell you that. The mask, it's not for me, it's for you. Now we don't talk about that. We got one from Enya.
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing? I'm just
What's up?
chill now. Weekly narrative.
Yeah.
How you doing? Young, dead Gen Lesbo. You know what's going on? What's going on, guys? How you doing? I'm just looking at the top. Chauvin is innocent. It's a tough trial, man. After seeing all the facts and everything, oh man, I'm not gonna put my comment out there, but I'm listening. So many sides to the story, but you're not far off.
Thanks, man.
Well, at least you're willing to hear all the sides and hear all the facts, and base your decision, base your idea off of the facts, instead of just seeing a 9-minute video and saying that he's guilty because of a 9-minute video. That's good. I mean, you're ahead of the curve when it comes to a lot of these people out there.
That's all we should ask as citizens of this country, is that you allow for a fair trial, without having some preconceived notion of he's guilty, why are we even having a trial, which is where a lot of people on the left are. I don't think that's healthy for society, but he sounds like he's in like a cathedral or something. I'd probably be
right. I was like, is that an effect, or is that or are you in a tunnel somewhere?
No, he's definitely in a tunnel somewhere. We got Moneypenny, our UK correspondent, COVID expert, chiming in.
The whole thing with masks is incredibly complicated. The solution that is being worked on behind closed doors is to identify super spreaders, those who carry a heavy viral load. And the second part of that is to identify the people who are completely asymptomatic, because we know already that a third of all infections are people that are not showing any symptoms at all, not aware that they have the virus. This is why in the UK we've had headlines in the last week or so, which haven't yet manifested, saying that every single person in the UK, all 69 whatever million of us there are going to be tested twice a week with home tests. And that is to effectively root out those that are asymptomatic.
Ooh.
But you only need one heavy load viral spreader, which is 1 in 25 estimated, and you can cause hundreds of thousands. And with the variants, which...
Oh, yeah, no, that's very interesting. I haven't heard about that. So they're shifting the whole strategy. Now that, see, the thing is, we haven't had these rapid tests available, right? Like, we've been waiting for these rapid tests to be available in America forever. Like, it's a year later, we still don't have the ability to just, I want to take 10 tests a day. I can't do that. Maybe, I heard something was becoming available shortly, but that's, now that we have that, yeah, it makes sense. That's exactly what they're going to do with it. They're going to make everybody test themselves 1,000 times a day, and then figure out who's the one spreading it all. And you want to take any guesses on the demographics of that group?
Probably, I don't know.
Old and fat?
Yeah, the oldies and the fatties. Yeah, let's experiment on them. That's cool with me.
I don't know. Well, I know that, I don't know if they're super spreaders, but they do represent the majority of the hospitalized populations. Maybe they have there's something with the... It's all about the viral load. She hit it directly on the head. If you don't get a massive viral load, then you're going to have a lower level of infection.
Oh, yeah. Low load, low infection.
People are wearing more masks than ever in history, and the Wuhan virus is still alive and kicking, says PJ Fan. Yeah, well, I mean, And now you can contrast the mask mandates in America. People are really confused right now because states like Michigan are having giant spikes in cases, while states like Texas and Missouri, who have removed all mask mandates, they have open restaurants, open theaters, do whatever you want, go wherever you want. They have had a continually decreasing number of cases. So the question is, are we as a society finally going to acknowledge out loud that maybe these mask mandates at a state level aren't really effective? Or is that still off limits? Is that still in the off limits category?
Oh yeah, definitely off limits. We have to trust our trust our representatives that they won't steer us wrong. They know it better than what we think and what the CDC tells us, because they trust the science too.
Mm-hmm. We got Mr. Echo back.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm in a stairwell. Smoking it up a little, listening to the topics.
Nice.
Oh, that COVID topic. Oh boy. Yeah, no, guys. The mask, I don't care what anybody says, it's necessary to prevent the spread. Yeah, if it's aerosolized, for sure, but it's gonna prevent when everybody's talking away, it's gonna prevent these little spit particles, and yeah, no, for sure. It's crazy. The numbers are crazy now. I was for the vaccine. Now I'm on the fence. The scientists all around the world got together. We saw that, right? And they made a vaccine in a time period we've never seen before, right? They got up. We got this vaccine, guys. Companies use what our studies, but now there's a variant. It's a new variant, guys. I'm like, what? How is this vaccine? No, I don't know.
Once you think you got a handle on it, oh, new variant. Nope, sorry guys,
Right?
you got to take a new vaccine and all that.
Yep. Yeah, that guy almost had me until he said that he thought the masks would masks help. I'm like, okay, I mean, you're free to wear a mask. I mean,
Well-
that's your personal liberty, but don't force me to wear one.
Well, the thing is, I'm willing to accept an argument that masks work, but I gotta see some data that suggests that. And the data, as far as I can tell right now, does not suggest that because of what I just said. But I made my comment after he submitted that comment, so maybe he would, that would change his mind a little bit, because we're looking at states, again, like Michigan with giant spikes. They have mask mandates. Texas does not have mask mandates for weeks, and they have not had any increase in cases. We got Paul and one more from the Ritz, and I think we'll wrap it up because we go in 3 hours, ladies and gentlemen. This is getting
Right?
3 hours.
It's been a while since we've gone 3, so this is fun.
I love it. As long as the conversation's good. While we're wrapping it up, guys, and before I hit these last ones, hit the like button if you haven't already on the YouTube, all right? We're trying to fight the YouTube overlords here. We're trying to give out some real facts, some forbidden facts. And if you want to see more forbidden facts, you got to hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, you got to hit the subscribe.
I feel that these COVID restrictions, their primary goal, in my opinion, is to bankrupt small business and generate debt. Notice, if you keep in mind that companies like Amazon and Domino's, these big monopoly entities, these business entities, their business isn't slowing down, it's booming.
Yep.
I think that's on purpose. I think that's the primary reason why the restrictions continue today, to bankrupt small business and to generate debt.
Well, I see your dog in the background. He's trying to get on camera and get famous now.
Yeah, he tries to join in sometimes, but
like,
my
"Hey,
cat,
guys,
my
look at me."
roommate's cat even hopped on my lap during the stream and showed his tail off. But
So,
yeah, the animals always try to bug me when I'm streaming. It's hilarious.
Of course, they know. So one of the things that as alt-centrists we call ourselves objective observers. And if an objective observer, meaning like an alien came down from outer space and saw the response to COVID in relation to how small businesses are treated versus the big businesses, this guy is absolutely correct. An objective observer would come to the conclusion that it seems like we're actually actively trying to harm small businesses. Because tell me what the logic is between shutting down a small business while letting the Walmart with the 200 people in it remain open with no kind of enforcement on social distancing and no real enforcement measures at all. An objective observer would come to the conclusion that this is trying to destroy small businesses. So I do agree with you on there.
Well, it's popular in America to blame Canada for everything. In truth, blame Nixon. He normalized relations and opened up diplomatically with China, so it's all Nixon's fault.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. I was just quoting a from the South Park movie, the whole song "Blame Canada, Blame Canada." Yeah, so I was just trying to be silly for people who watch South Park or know that.
Just saying goodbye from your UK correspondent. Thank you for letting me contribute. I really enjoy it, and I'd like to continue where possible if the stuff is still relevant. But ending on a high, there is scientific proof of the efficacy of masks on Syrian hamsters. You heard it here. That is the news. I sent you a link on the YouTube chat to the Syrian hamster research project. Yes, I am being serious. Goodbye from across the pond.
Night night, Miss Moneypenny. We love you.
That was our UK correspondent, Moneypenny. Thank you for that. Excellent information there. I'm going to look into the Syrian hamsters for sure. All right, we got two more
Look,
comments.
there's my dog right there.
He's hiding back there. We got the Ritz, and then Enya
Yeah,
will wrap it up here.
Okay.
You may be an alt-centrist now, but you will be a national socialist in the future.
Maybe.
No.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear what you guys are saying about the mask. And my issue is, right, and I'll tell you the honest truth, it's the people that are asymptomatic that are running around. Running around and saying, hi, Grandpa, hi, Granddad. It's a war against the baby boomers. Like, we're literally killing them off. Now, in terms of the numbers, do you remember the beginning we were hearing all these, oh, well, they're just putting that so that we can, any deaths, they're recording any deaths as COVID-19, and they were saying that the numbers were skewed. So now all of a sudden we're looking at the numbers in different states. Oh, look, the numbers are going down. But I'm like, wait a second, we didn't trust this data in the first place. Why are we trusting it now? Look at the hospitalizations, right? And that, like, we still have to look at that. It's not, the hospitals are packed. I don't know, masks are necessary because of asymptomatic people, right? They're just running around. That's why, right? I don't know.
Those damn asymptomatics.
Yeah, those damn asymptomatics that I still have yet to meet.
Well,
they're pesky and they are elusive.
That's the whole point. You've met them. You just didn't know it. And he's got a great point about the data. This is exactly what I've been saying the entire time. And I have actual intimate experience with healthcare companies because some of my clients are healthcare companies. And I know how they've looked at the numbers. I know how they count the numbers. And you have to look at the incentives for how they count their COVID cases, because according to the CARES Act, which you should look up, it provides reimbursement to hospitals for the number of COVID cases that they have treated and the amount of time that they spend working on COVID-related things. So the more cases that they can say they've had, the more money they get from the government. So that's a major incentive when hospitals are hurting massively because they don't have the normal flow of inpatients because people are afraid to go to the hospitals. Look, just do a cursory glance at the state of hospitals, especially in like California. They're hurting massively from COVID. You would think that they're doing well because they have an increase in COVID patients. It's not the case. They have reduced their service offerings, which means they have less revenue. People are afraid to come in, less revenue. And they have to repurpose a lot of their staff and a lot of their buildings for COVID stuff, less revenue. They've been hurting massively. They want more money back, which means they're incentivized to claim more cases, which has really no oversight or auditing or authentication behind it. So why not just say, I have a lot more COVID cases than I actually do, because you get a bigger check from the government.
It's all a money scheme, man, when you deep dive into it.
Hey, if you understand the incentives, you will understand the world. That's how I see it. Swampy McGee's been going hard in chat the whole time. I love it.
Oh, I know. He's been trolling me especially really hard on the chat. It's pretty glorious.
Hey.
Thank you, Swampy, for being our local troll.
Synergy says, love you all. These streams don't always jive with my life schedule, but today was great. Hey, I'm glad you could make it, man. Yeah, we can find us every Tuesday and Saturday, 7 p.m. PST, right here on stereo and youtube.com/weekly narrative. Guys, we've just hit the 3-hour mark. I mean, there is only so much you can expect from a human being. I haven't even used the restroom in 3 hours, and I've been
Yeah, me neither.
drinking.
I have to go,
So-
but yeah.
We appreciate thanks for all the conversation, all the comments. I loved it for sure. If you want to hear the podcast version of this, if you do have the incorrect life schedule to view the whole live stream, you can find the podcast version of these at Stitcher, Google Podcast, and iTunes. So look for us there. The podcast is called The Alt Centrist. So go check that out if you want to listen to it offline. Otherwise, guys, that's it for us today. Thanks for joining, and we will see you back here on Tuesday.
Yep. See you on Tuesday, guys. Have a good night. Sleep tight. Don't wear your mask all the time because it's not good for you.
All right. See you guys.